Hello guys, I'm Stark and I'm here to present you the Mongols Civilization Guide. So guys, Mongols are one of the ancient civilizations of Age of Empires 2. They are available to be played since the very beginning of the game uh, in, in the early 2000s or even a bit before that. And the thing is, they are quite a complex civ to master. They have some two different power spikes. The first power spike from the Mongols that you need to know how to use is their early game, especially the early feudal age, that you can reach by hunting, since they have a great hunting bonus. So in the beginning, you should be stronger or at least faster than your opponent using this hunting bonus to advance feudal age quite fast. And later you are just going to be strong or very strong once again once you are able to use the elite Mangudai. Meanwhile, there is a lot of game for you to play, but it's a very entertaining civilization, and Mongols are one of the civilizations that have more carry potential in my analysis. So if I want to climb the team game ladder, playing multiple maps, Mongols are surely one civilization that I should look for. They can be good on on open land maps like Arabia. They can also be great on mega random settings when you don't know what you are going to find in front of you. Mongols are also a very solid option because of their elite Mangudai that can truly dominate and finish the game on the Imperial Age. If you cannot run over your enemy you will do with a mass of elephants, you can at least just escape with a small group of Mangudais and raid some key point of the map like their trade route. And that's how you'll win most of the games with the Mongols, not only by playing a big part on the main fights, but also by killing the enemy, hitting where it hurts the most on them. So basically, let's go now to the tech tree so we can talk more about this civilization and how this actually works. Alright guys, going for the tech tree from the Mongols, they are defined as a cavalry archer civilization, and their cavalry archers fire 25% faster. So they are better than other cav archers. But if you can choose, do not go for the regular cav archers, go for the Mangudais, and we are going to get there soon. Why do you want the Mangudais? Well, we are going to get there, but basically they have extra attack and they are much better versus the siege. So a much more useful unit than the regular cav archer. Their light cavalry, roosters, and steppe lancers have 30% extra hit points. This is good if you do some word strategy like a fast caster to make some steppe lancers in the beginning. You are just going to have a way bulkier steppe lancer than the other civilizations, and you can surprise your opponents by doing this. Their light cavalry and roosters are a bit more tanky due to this extra bonus, but sometimes they are not so great versus ranged units for a very simple reason. Mongols do not have the last armor for their cavalry, so because of that fact, their steppe lancers and roosters are still good, but they are not OP. Their unique unit is the Mangudai, the cavalry archer from the Mongols, and this is the unit that you are always aiming to get when you are playing the Mongols. It's different. When you are Mayan, sometimes you can play a whole game without making the Eagle Warrior. Some other times you can play the whole game without doing the Plumed Archer. But you are never, as Mongols, you never want to play a whole game without even thinking about the Mangudais. They are your main objective, they are your main goal, they are very expensive, they require a castle, they produce it slow, they require a lot of upgrades, so they are a very complex unit to be built, economically speaking, situationally speaking, but they are totally worth it, and we are going to get to this point. About their unique technologies, they have two. The first one is nomads, which means that the lost houses do not decrease population red room. Let's imagine that you just have something about 200 population, and your opponent starts killing all of your houses because you build all of your houses on the side of the map. If you made this upgrade, even if you lose these houses and your castles, you are never going to get below the maximum population space you had. So it's a very situational bonus, but pretty much this is very helpful in games where you were getting sieged and things like this. The other unique upgrade, the other unique technology from the Mongols, which is quite important, is the drill, which means that their siege workshop units move 50% faster. This is great because it adds mobility to your siege units. Basically, your siege units can outrun even some infantry units, and having faster siege means that you'll get closer to your opponent fast, you close the gap fast. Having faster onagers means that you can just even chase a group of arbalests. There's no way of a group of arbalests seeing your siege and just turning around. You can even chase them having the drill. So this is pretty much great upgrade, and it accelerates and escalates very well with your siege on the Imperial Age. The team bonus from the Mongols is that their scout, light cavalry, and Russar, basically their scouts, have a +2 line of sight. This is especially good for maps like Mega Random where you don't know what to expect, and even for regular maps it means that you are going to scout the map way more effectively than other civilizations due this extra loss from your scout. So you can pretty much do a much better job on scouting, find your resources faster, and this can give you potential to lure resources, to lame opponent resources, to find out what your opponent is doing faster. So if you know how to use your scout, this is a great bonus. In the past, I remember that people used it to pick this civilization a lot to use in a combo with the hands because of this bonus, because people would evaluate this scouting ability a lot. But now let's go further into the tech tree. The Mongols have the Arbalest and the Revicav Archer available, so in some cases you might even want to play with regular crossbows on Castle Age, having the ability to upgrade them to Arbalest for the early Imperial Age until you make your transition to the Mangudai. Of course, they are cavalry archer civilization, so they do have the Revicav Archer, but pay attention on that. They do not have the hand cannoneer. So if you have to counter some unit like the Hurskal, hand cannoneers are not available. You have to find other way of doing it. They obviously have access to Tumbling and Parthian Tactics, which are great upgrades for the ranged units. Moving to their infantry, they have no halberdier, and here is where your problem might start. When you fight versus heavy cavalry civilizations such as the Franks, maybe the Huns, maybe the Magyars, you are not going to have the halberdiers to help you, and the pikemen are quite not useful when you are on the Imperial Age. So pay attention on that one. You are going to rely probably on the power of your Mangudais even to counter those power units. You have the Camel of course as an option, but they are way more costly than the halberdier line. The champions, well, you got them, and be glad you have them because you might be forced to use them, especially if you're facing a god opponent where you need to make this kind of composition. They do not have supplies, which means that their swordsman line does not benefit for the minus 15 food here. So your champions are always going to cost 60 food. Basically, what I'm saying is, unless you are in a very situational game, you do not want to go for the infantry. But they do have squires, arson, some of the other upgrades can still be useful. Sometimes you want to counter an Aztec making eagles, so you still have this option. Not so cost effective, but you still have it. Moving now to the stable, Mongols have a lot of options here on the stable. They have, of course, the bloodlines, which means that their knights will be great. Their cavalry from the castle, from Feudal and Castle Age will obviously benefit from this extra 20 hit points. They have the access to the light cavalry, knight, camels, so this is how you deal with some of the cavalry civs. And you also have the Steppe Lancer, which is a situational unit, but remember that in the early Castle Age, Mongols have the best Steppe Lancer on the game, for the simple reason that they have plus 30% extra hit points from their bonus of the track tree. They also have the husbandry, which is quite important to make your cavalry move faster. Moving to the Imperial Age, they have access to the Russar, Cavaliers, Heavy Camel Rider, and Elite Steppe Lancer, but, and there's a but, they have no access to the last armor, so going for a composition with Cavaliers will always be a mistake. Going for a composition with heavy camo should be done only in very situational scenarios when you want to counter the Franks or something like this, but you are going to be less effective with your camos compared to any other civilizations that have access to them, even the Byzantines, for the simple reason that do not have the last armor. Your elite step lancers, well, they do not have so much stats, but because of the lack of the extra armor. But sometimes, some situations you might even be forced to make them. So do not forget they are still an option. Moving to something that the Mongols do a lot better than all the previous things that we have seen. Their siege, guys, is great. They have access to all the siege with the exception of the bombard cannon. So they have the siege run, they have the siege onager, they have the Rav Scorpion, and this makes them pretty much strong and very strong on the Imperial Age. You have the ability of sieging the enemy using your runs, combining them with drill. You have the ability of using Rav Scorpions or siege onagers, depending on what you are facing. You might be facing a guy playing with a lot of ranged units, and you can pretty much deal with that by using your onagers combined with drill. Let's say you are facing a Vietnamese and he's spamming a lot of Imperial skirmishers, rattan archers, units that are somehow difficult to deal with. You can make use of the siege in this situation. Now going to the blacksmith, Mongols lack 2 upgrades. The last armor for the archers, the ring archer armor. So yes, they do not have the access to the +4 armor for the arbalest and the skirmishers, which makes these units a bit weaker. But guys, believe me, despite not having access to that, they still have the best cavarchers of the game. And I'm talking about the Mangudai, not the regular one, because they fire faster. So this is kind of a necessary nerf to the civilization. If they have access to this, they would be honestly very OP. Then they also have no access to the last plate barding armor. And even without having those 2 armors, they can still just run over archer civilizations because of their good siege, because of the Mangudai, because of the bulky Russars. So you are well served on those points. Moving now to the dock, if you ever have to play on water map, remember that the Mongols can also escalate very good because of the hunter bonus. So you can just go up fast. If you're playing a map like a Baltic or a Mediterranean, you can bet that you are going to get faster to Feudal Age than your opponent if you if you use your hunt properly. So you can just dominate the early water game, and as game keeps escalating, you have access to the fast fire galley, to the galleons, to the Rev demolition ship, to shipwrights. So you pretty much have a very complete tech tree for the dock. So Mongols can still be useful on water maps. Moving now to the university, you do have masonry, but you have no architecture, so there's a limit on how good your castles will be. You have no access to Redded Shot, which is a very unused upgrade, but basically do not rely so much on your towers and castles to deal with the enemy navy. They have no treadmill crane, and this is big. It means that you are not going to build 20% faster. You have no way of accelerating the speed within you make your castles. This is one of the reasons that the Mongols are also not so strong in Dutch-mat settings. Not so strong, but still strong. They also do not have the keep towers and the arrow lists. So as game moves on, you are not going to rely so much on your buildings. Oh, that's what this university tech tree is telling you. You are actually going to rely on the army, but you are still well served, especially since you have the siege engineers. This can just make your siege even stronger. You have access to the fortified wall, so if you have to play a map where walling is necessary, like Black Forest, you can rely on those to be your goal. And we are finally here where I wanted to be. We are on the castle, and we are about to see the unit that we're basically going to focus on. Every single moment of the Mongol game is a moment that is allowing you to get to the point where you can make this guy here, the elite Mangudai. Mangudais are a relatively costly unit. They cost 55 wood and 65 gold, almost the same gold price of a knight, 10 less gold, and a lot of wood. And they also take some time to be created, as you can see here. So they are not great because of this, the creation time, their cost. They also are somewhat a fragile unit. They only have 60 HP, 80 after you upgrade the bloodlines. So 80 HP is the maximum amount of HP you are getting on your Mangudais. Their upgrade cost to elite requires food and gold, 1,100 food, 675 gold. So you need to make an economy that's strong enough in food and gold in order to upgrade those guys. And they have a lot of attack. They have 8 attack. Compared to the regular Cavalry that has 6 or 7, they're way better. The regular Mangudai has 6 attack and the elite Mangudai has 8. Let's compare now to the Cavalry. The regular Cavalry, and here we are, has 6 attacks, so very similar, but less HP. And the elite has 7, so the Revi Cavalry has 7. So the Mangudai and the Cavalry are in similar. They are very similar, with some extra HP for the Mangudai. But once you are on Imperial Age, the Mangudai surpasses the attack from the regular Cavalry. Also, they are defined as a Mongol unit cavalry archer with fast firing. So this basically means that you can kill siege, you can kill other Cavalries by the very simple reason that you are going to fire faster than the regular ones, and you also benefit from the 25% faster firing once you are engaged on the battles. So basically you are an arrow machine gun mounted on a horse. That's what you are when you have to use the civ. Keep moving here. You have access to hoardings on the castles, which can make them more bulky. Your monastery is very poor. You have no redemption, you have no sensitivity. So basically, whenever you are using the monastery, you might be using probably Heresy and Fate, especially if you are fighting versus a very complex monk composition. But the regular units from the Mongols, the Roosters, the Mangudais, do pretty well versus monks. So this will be very, very situational. Moving now to the economical upgrades, the Mongols lack the last mill upgrade, the last wood upgrade, and that's huge. And they also lack guilds. So you are going to be less effective once you are on Imperial Age and you have to trade resources. But you still have access to all the upgrades from Castle Age, including stone shaft mining, which can accelerate a lot your stone gathering rate, and the gold shaft mining that can do this as well. So this, guys, is the Mongol tech tree. Now that we are introduced to it, let's talk a bit about army composition. Alright guys, let's talk about the army composition from the Mongols. As you have already seen on the technology tree, they have access to pretty much every upgrade for the Castle Age. So they have a vast army composition. They can do a lot of things during the game, but we are not going to do this. We're going to get there. But starting from the Dark Age, you can obviously go for the Drush. So start with using your starting scout with 3 extra militias to deal damage to the enemy economy. This can be good to buy yourself some time to make a better army on Feudal Age, or sometimes just to go for a fast castle afterwards. So Drush, still an option for the Mongols. Scouts, let's start with the scout line. Going for population 20 upgrade and doing some scouts is pretty much what you need to do as the Mongols. It's a very great build. It has a great synergy with their hunting bonus, allowing you to produce a lot of scouts very early and then raiding your opponents before they are even ready for that. So scouts are an option. If you are a guy that loves to play with horses and you play very well raiding and with scouts, full scouts is an option for the Mongols, especially if we're talking about 1v1, and even if you want to be creative on some team games. Sometimes I do this, at least I have some fun doing. Scouts and archers, that's another one very interesting. You can just go for early scouts, already switch to archers, and work with the archer and the scout composition. Scouts and skirmishers, great when you are fighting versus archer civilizations. So let's say you were facing a Briton, Starting raiding the Britain with scouts and then using skirmishers to defend yourself from his massive army of archers is also good. This also gives you the option of playing with a knight and elite skirmisher or camels and elite skirmisher later on. I strongly recommend you not to do so. I do not like to go for big or long fights during Castle Age with the Mongols. Your focus is to get to Imperial Age where you can use the elite Mangudai, but still you have the option. Also, if you want to play with the men-at-arm opening instead, to later add some archers, skirmishers, or whatever you want. In this example, I'm using the archers. Men-at-arm opening is also an option for the Mongols, but I would rather have the scouts. It has great synergy with the extra line of sight and the hunting bonus, which makes your civilization benefit from it. Moving now to the Castle Age, let's just minimize the music just a bit. But basically, once you are in the Castle Age, imagine that you went for regular scouts or the full scout composition. You are pretty much ready to go for whatever cavalry unit you need. So you might just follow this composition by adding, upgrading the light cavalry, which will have more HP, and then adding camels if you are facing a strong cavalry civ. You can just switch for camels, or knights if you want to still raiding with some power and even kill some archers. So this is a composition of cavalry. You can pretty much use any cavalry unit on the Castle Age. My only advice for you is, if possible, do not focus too much on Castle Age. If you just keep trading army versus a Chinese versus a Malian versus a Han, you are just going to delay yourself from getting up to the elite Mangudais, which is your main focus. So whatever composition you choose, what you have to keep in mind when you are playing the Mongols is you do not want to play a full Castle Age game. You want to do the minimum amount of army possible, which will allow you to survive and maybe open some advantage so that you can boom and get to elite Mangudai. If you have this mindset, you are going to play Mongols correctly. Moving now, you can also go for the full Castle Age composition of crossbows and knights. So imagine you were facing an opponent like a Goth and you do not want to give him enough time to go for the pikemen and Hurskell. You can just go for scout and archers, pressure him on feudal, and once you are on the Castle Age, pressure him using the best units you have access to. Remember that your knights have access to all the upgrades, including +2, bloodlines, husbandry, and also your crossbows have access to all the upgrades during the Castle Age, such as the bodkin arrow, ballistics, thumb ring. So you can have the best you can take the best out of this composition. If you are facing an opponent that has a very strong cavalry civ, let's say you are facing a Frank, one of the compositions that might be useful for you is the crossbowmen and camels. Let's just say that you played the regular Feudal Age with scouts and archers, and now you are facing the Frank and Castle Age. If you can just keep a big mass of crossbows, you are going to force him to mass up a lot of army. But if you start adding camels already, not even a big arm of knights will be enough to deal with this composition, because it's a great one. So if you want to keep some advantage and some safety during Castle Age, especially in 1v1 playing versus the Brevi Cav Civ, this is the composition that I recommend for you. Some other compositions, let's say that you just want to buy time, you were just trading some blows versus another archer civilization or something like this. Crossbows and mangonels works great to buy time, so sometimes you might have to face a civilization with even better archers than you, let's say an Ethiopian, or maybe a Mayan that can spend a lot of archers. Going for a bunch of crossbows just to keep an army of yourself and adding some siege to avoid an army versus army trade can be good and can just be enough for you to survive until Imperial Age. Another option is in cases like the one where you made skirmishers on feudal, you can just make a combination of elite skirmishers and crossbows and play with this full ranged composition. It's good, especially versus archer civilizations. Or you can also use it versus civilizations that are infantry ones but are focusing on making archers. Let's say you were facing a Japanese that's focusing a lot on crossbows, but you do not want to go full skirmishers. You do not want this guy to go into knights. So adding crossbows right after you have the lead skirmishers kind of nerfs the natural counter of the skirmishers a bit. So that's something you can also work on. Going for crossbowmen and long swordsmen, this is very situational, but if you are facing a massive civilization, sometimes going for the infantry unit and the crossbows is less gold consuming than going for the full archer and knight composition. So you can just keep getting your group of archers, keep getting some numbers, and add a few long swords. This is very good, especially when you're facing an Aztec or an Inca that is trying to play using something like a full 1TC approach with 3 or 4 barracks of eagles. So that's the composition that I mostly recommend versus Meso civilizations if you are playing defensive. But remember that we also have the Steppe Lancers, so you can use the Steppe Lancer. One combination that I like a lot is you start with a Drush and then you just move here to the Steppe Lancers right after. You make the Drush, you buy some time, you go for a fast castle, and you just reprise your opponent raiding with Steppe Lancers. On the early castle age, they are very strong. And since they have this one extra range, despite not being strong as knights, you can even out-micro knights in small numbers using those guys. Cav Archers, also an option, can also be a surprise for your opponent to deal with the Cav Archers, and since you have the 25% fast firing, they can be a bit more effective when trading versus enemy army, when raiding vehicles, and so on. I also like to make a combination of Drush and a fast castle with some Steppe Lancers and Siege. I like to use this to pressure my opponents. I can just crack them open with the siege. If they try to wall themselves, I can go for the runs. If they try to make towers or defend with the TC, I can just siege them using the Mangonels. And meanwhile, I just have my own Steppe Lancers to go and try to raid. Even a small group of Steppe Lancers is great at raiding because of the extra range. If you find a villager, you are most likely going to kill it. Also, if you want to do this, you can also add some Scorpions if your opponent tries to defend with full pikemen. So on the very beginning of the castle age, you can just get a good opening to use this composition. And the other one is if you have the option of safe gold, a safe stone, a game that's not requiring you to fully invest into army, you can just do a small group of Mangudais, just make a fast castle, a castle drop, do some Mangudais, and just boom while raiding your enemy with a small group of Mangudais. This is good because you are just going to mess up Mangudai, so once you are in Imperial Age, you already have the core of your army in some good numbers, which are the Mangudai. Moving now to the Imperial Age, we are going to talk about the real composition. All this composition we saw here on Castle Age, the less army you make, the better for you. The less you are forced to invest into this army, the better your Mongol game will be. If you stay too long on the Castle Age, you are not playing the civilization correctly. So my recommendation is focus on getting some good advantage on Feudal or on the early Castle Age with those comps, and then move to focus on booming and getting yourself to the Imperial Age, where you can use the true composition and the true power of the Mongol civilization, which is a core of elite Mangudais. So once you have this core of elite Mangudais fully upgraded, that's what you want to do to win the game. In a team game, sometimes you just need to make this single unit. Let your allies do paladins or elephants or infantry or whatever, and just focusing on having your Mangudais. This unit has mobility, this unit's far faster, this unit can counter siege in small numbers, this unit can raid, so you have the range, mobility, you have all the qualities of a great unit, and if you use this properly, you can pretty much kill any other unit in the game. If you are playing 1v1, Mangudais alone will not solve your issue because you won't have an ally to tank some damage for you. So you are probably being forced to play with Russars, and for 1v1, my favorite composition is elite Mangudai and Roosters. So the idea here is, if some units have to die on your army, those are the Roosters. Use them as a meat shield. You can just make a huge number of farms and keep spamming Roosters for during all the Imperial Age. But Mangudais are very costly, and gold is a limited resource, especially in 1v1. So the key of playing this composition is you always want to keep your Mangudais safe and alive, and the unit that is always going to be on the front line dying and tanking the damage will be the Roosters, which can be replaced without the cost of gold. Another good composition, which is a bit more gold intensive, but I like to use sometimes in 1v1 and but most of the times in team games, is the Elite Mangudai and Siege. So basically you just want to keep a good core of Elite Mangudai and use the Siege according to the situation. You will need to siege your opponent's town. You just need to break 2 layers of wall and go to the enemy trade line. Use the siege runs. Always remember to use the drill upgrade. Or let's say that you want to face an enemy that's making archers that are quite troublesome for you to deal with. Let's say that you are facing an opponent doing the generals, crossbowmen, or rattan archers. You do not want to keep trading Mangudais versus those units. They all have great stats to deal with your Mangudais. The generals, for example, have bonus versus mounted units. The rattan archer has a great armor, so those can, or even the camel archer from the Berbers also have some bonus versus cavalry archers. So you do not want to trade Mangudais versus those units. My advice on those situations is mix up onagers on your army. The Mangudai is one of the ranged units with most efficiency killing enemy onagers. So and your onagers also have all the upgrades possible. They have the siege onager upgrade, they have the siege engineers, which adds the extra range, they have the drill, which allows you to micro and use them with more mobility. So if you start combining your Mangudais with the siege, the Berber won't be able to compete in the same way, the Vietnamese won't be able to compete in the same way, the Italian won't be able to compete in the same way. All of those 3 units do not have the siege onager. All of those units are not so effective killing enemy onagers because they do not have them, and because their units do not have any bonus versus siege. And also you have the drill. So even if those civs like the Vietnamese tries to make cannon or something like that, you can even dodge those cannons using some micro. So using the onagers from the Mongols, is the siege onagers combined with the Mangudais, is great. Some honorable mentions here of army compositions. If you are playing versus a guy that's forcing a lot of cavalry and you were kind of forced to mass up a lot of camels to survive during the Castle Age, maybe keeping those camels alive a bit longer and using them to counter, for example, a Frank or maybe a Turk that is spamming Roosters non-stop. The Elite Mangudai combined with Heavy Camel is an option. The issue with this composition is the camels are not so strong because they do not have the last armor, and I cannot reinforce that enough. And this is also a very costly army composition. In team games, you also want to avoid this because you want to focus only on the Elite Mangudai. You probably have an ally with a better counter for cavalry than you, in most of the cases. And another honorable mention is if you want to face a Goth, this combination, as strong as it looks, might have some flaws. The Goth can just tank the damage using the cheap halberdiers and Hurskalls, kill your core and your mass of Roosters while tanking half of the damage from the Mangudais because of their big shields. So instead of using Roosters and Mangudais, if you face a Goth, you might want to go for Champions and Mangudai. But the key is, from all these compositions, they are all useful, but if you can minimize the amount of army you do during Feudal, during Castle, and focus on getting into those situations, you are going to succeed as the Mongols. So never forget the Mongol mindset. You want to get to Imperial Age, you want to play with Elite Mangudai. Avoid at all costs using or making longer games during Castle. This was the army composition from the Mongols. Mangudais are the key to the Mongol play, so using them in an effective way is very important. So here I'm I want to show you two examples on how to use the Mangudai. First, we are going to deal with some player using a halberdier and siege composition. Siege is very dangerous, and so is halberdier. If the siege can shoot your Mangudai, they are going to fall. If the halberdiers can do damage to them, they are also going to fall. So using your mobility, keeping the distance, using the range, using the correct formations, all of this is quite important to deal with those situations. So let's get started here to the practice. Let's say that you already have this composition on the beginning of the Imperial Age, a small group of Mangudai. How do you want to deal with your opponent? Oh my god, they're attacking the walls. I don't mind. You actually want to pick units one by microing the Mangudai. And if you find a siege, you want to wait for the siege to shoot, and so you can move out from the shoot and then kill the siege, or you just want to kill the siege first and then you move out from the shots. So let's do this, a small group of Mangudai versus a small group of siege and halberdiers. Kill the halberdiers, I'm waiting for the shots, the siege is shooting and I'm moving. The siege shoots and I'm moving, the siege shoots and I move. Look at this. I wait for the siege to shoot and I kill it. I wait for the siege to shoot and I kill it. That's how I want to do. If you do not move, this is how it happens, is what's gonna happen. I'm going to get now a big group of Mangudai and show what can happen if I do not pay attention on the micro here. If I just get this big group and I try to deal with the siege and halberdiers, look what might happen. Oh my god, the halberdiers are here. Let me kill the siege. Oh no, but I'm killing the siege. I'm dead. You see? Basically, you do not walk straight into the siege. You make a perimeter around the siege, around the halberdiers, and if you ever have to face a composition like this, an opponent playing with a lot of siege, my small advice is, if you have this group of Mangudai, you can just do this fight in two ways. First, instead of using all the group, just select a few Mangudai, like I'm going to do this, a small group, use a close formation like this one, the Q or the W1, this one or this one, not this one, too wide. So let's make a small formation, and we are going to attack a very similar army than the previous one, but this time we are trying to win the fight. How are we going to do this? Basically, we're just going to avoid the shoots and kill the Mangudai, the siege one by one. Uh-oh, or maybe not. Uh-oh, I got hit here, guys. If you cannot micro, just go away. Remember that you have the mobility and the siege don't. Pick units one by one. Use the hit and run. You do not have to fight if you do not want to. Remember, you have the mobility, and you should remember that always. See? You do not need a big army of Mangudai. You just need some patience. You keep the distance from the halberdiers, you keep the distance from the siege. You micro on them one by one. Remember that you shoot fast, and if you want, you can even trick your opponent into killing his own army. That's what I would try to do here. See? If you just keep moving within keeping this distance, you can just force your opponent to kill his own army. If you are facing siege in small numbers, you can close the gap, you can close the distance, and then you can kill it. So basically, the thing is, the Mangudai are strong, they are not immortal, and they require a lot of micro. With a small group of Mangudai, you can just kill a big army, a big group of siege. But the thing is, you have to keep them moving. You cannot just throw them like I did before. And I didn't even use it all of my army, you see. If I have to fight siege, I often like to get a small group like this one and snipe the siege. You can also dodge the shots. This can be done by using the split formation. You wait for the siege to shoot, and then you split your army like this. Let's do it again. Let's go and cheat the own scenario. I'm having a lot of fun playing this, man. That's why Mongols are so fun. If you have this unit and you are facing a composition like this, You have despite your opponent having units that can just touch your army and kill it within a few shots, you can just choose where to fight. You can just choose to pick the fights. Look, dodge. Uh-oh, I missed it. And even if you have a small group, oh my god, that's a terrible fight. You see, you do not want to keep microing so much, huh? It was better to keep the distance instead of dancing, right? You wait for the enemy to shoot, and you split. You wait for the enemy to shoot, and you split. And if you keep doing this, onagers will never kill Mangudais. And if you have to face a bigger group of onager, not just 1, 2, just something like 7 or 8 like you saw, just keep moving, keeping your distance, and that's how you win the fight. Let's now go for another scenario. You want to fight now versus cavalry. How to fight versus cavalry and how not to fight versus cavalry. So first thing is, if you want to move, move using patrol. When you move using patrol, at the side of the opponent, your army will start shooting. So if you just find some small units like this, your army is just going to kill. But the thing is, the patrol might not be enough. Look at this. If you just keep wasting your army walking around the enemy cavaliers or paladins, this might not work great for you. If you allow your enemy to take way too much hits on you, you might die. So if you are not sure, you can read and run and kill all of his army. If you do not have enough numbers to keep read and running, you might just be read and ruining your army instead of read and running. So one thing is, if you have small numbers like this one, just run. Unless you can just force a formation that allows you to kill the enemy one by one. If you can do this, it's fine. If you can't, I suggest you just to run. If your enemy catches you on the corner or something like this, you are pretty much dead. So this is how you do not want to play versus cavalry. You want to use the patrol, but you want to read and run. And the secret of read and running cavalry units is having at least some number. If you have some minimum amount of Mangudais, here I have a huge pack. I just needed like half of those, but let's use the huge one. You just need to patrol, and then you just keep keeping the distance from your army to the enemy cavaliers. That's the one cavalier, you kill it easily. Another one, you kill it easily. Uh-oh, they are forming a big group, so you just read and run. 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 That's basically how you play with the Mangudais. Do not tell your army to walk a big distance, because they just might change the formation. If I just keep telling them to move small distances, they will keep this formation. But if I tell them to make a bigger hide here, they will just split the formation, and you might lose some of the Mangudais that were just stayed on the back. So this is very important. If you are moving, just click to read and run, but do not click to read and run by moving far away from where you are. Just click right after where you are. You can also use the stop button if you do not want to choose your targets. Stop, 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 stop. The advantage of stop is that the Mangudais will actually aim at the cavaliers that are closer to you. So you can just kill 2 targets when you do this. The disadvantage of the stop is that sometimes it requires some coordination, and you might even lose some Mangudais. But basically, guys, that's it. And if you have enough numbers to kill the whole army, and you do not mind in losing a few Mangudais, then it's fine. If you have a situation like this, where the fight is already won, just make a patrol to finish the opponent. You do not want to be so meticulous during Imperial Age. So dealing with cavalry is basically this. You want to read and run. Dealing with siege is basically what we did that. You use a small group to snipe off the siege, and then you just bring all your pack of Mangudais to go and kill the enemy. Or you can use a combination of these. For example, you can patrol into the enemy, separate a group, and start killing the siege. Let's imagine the siege was here. You just get your army, get it down, patrol it to the back, and you just snipe off the siege with a small group. So remember, when you are fighting siege with the Mangudais, getting a whole group to kill the siege might be a risk, especially if you are not so sure of what you are doing. So give priority to small groups, give priority to keeping the distance, waiting for the enemy to shoot with the onagers so you know where the projectiles are actually going to hit, so you can move out from them and then you hit the onagers. And if you are facing a small group of onagers, you can use even your big group. You can just wait for the enemy to aim at the Mangudais and then you can separate them. One thing is, once you start getting more experienced players, they might manually micro their onagers. So an opponent sees you approaching, he's not going to shoot your Mangudais automatically. He's actually going to shoot the place where you are moving. If I'm moving here and I have onagers and I see Mangudais coming, I will actually make the shoot here. Pa! Waiting for the Mangudais to move in the location and then I hit them. So using small groups will always be the safer option for you. And always use the read and run technique when fighting cavalry units. I guess this pretty much sums up how you want to play using the elite Mangudai. Using patrol and use this when you have to face strong armies such as paladins, because they have mobility, they have strength, and use small groups and fighting siege. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope this becomes effective or useful for you sometimes. Alright guys, it's time for us to talk about build orders. Let's work with the first one, which is the Population 20 Scouts. A very good build for the Mongols. Basically, it's a build for you to use on regular land maps, which allows you to reach Feudal Age with quite an okay time and a good economy. And the big thing is, you do not need any special skill to execute this build. Once you finish your houses, focus on putting the 6 initial villagers on the food. Since we do not plan to build a barracks on the Dark Age to make a drush or a men-at-arms rush, we can wait until we click to Feudal Age to then proceed to make our barracks. We do not need to put 4 views on the wood, so only 3 villagers on the wood are enough. And remember that your scout has extra line of sight. So if you just use some of your cows in the beginning, combine it with your scouts line of sight, you can just open the map with quite an ease. Look at this, it's not even 2 minutes and I already found the boars, all those woods, and I'm not forcing so much on the scouting. I'm doing the standard, so that's one of the biggest things for the Mongol. The scouting bonus is already kicking in. We are going to eat the first 3 cows or the first 4 sheep, in case you have the sheep available, while we add views now to the wood. The other thing that we're going to do as soon as we finish to find the main resources, which are all the sheep, the boars, even the goats to play later, is to find the deers. You need to find the deers when you have the Mongols. By the way, we have already 3 views on the wood, so I can send the next villager to eat a boar. As soon as we find the deers, there are 2 ways of playing. But let's focus on the boar first. Which one shoot the boar, and if the path is clear, we just send the villager back without any kind of trouble. I'm still looking for the deers. Let's use the villagers here to kill the boar. Alright, let's make a small pause here. There are 2 ways of playing this. If you are a more experienced player, my suggestion for you is to lure. If you lure, you can just save the wood of 1 meal by not having to mill the deers. And this will allow you to have a huge boost on your economy. But if you are not so experienced or you just do not want to lose too much scouting time luring, you can just make a meal on the deers. So right now we have 8 views under our TC eating the food from the boar and from the last cow that we were eating before the boar, and I'm just going to send the new villagers to the mill. And we are going to mill the deers. We are always going to focus on the deers. And the reason is quite simple. We have the bonus of 40% faster hunts. So if we actually focus on getting the deers, we are going to get a much better eco. I could lure those and make the meal regularly here on the berries, but let's go with this for now. Already go to the next boar when you are below 200 or around 150 food at maximum. You know, if you get below that, you are just going to eat your boar way before your villager hits the boar and push it back to the TC. There we go. Manually drop the food here so we wouldn't idle the TC. I'm going to kill the second boar and I already have 4 views here eating the deers. I'll keep sending next villagers to the boar here. We have now 8 views, 9 views. Basically we have like 13 views already eating the boar. With all the other civs I would wait until 14 here if you want. You can also wait until 14 or you can already send the villagers to the wood. The reason is you are not going to feel like you are lacking food to go up because the hunt that you get is way more effective than the hunt from the food from the berries. So I'm just adding extra views now to the wood. We have 5 views on this wood. I'm already going to end on another wood. Remember that by now it's like 6 minutes and I have already scouted like half of the map, man. I'm going to make the loom before I click up. New lumber camp. I'll get 4 views from my initial TC and send them to complete 5 views on the wood. So basically you want to, now that we click it to Feudal Age, where we are just clicking around 7 minutes and something, very fast. This is how we are going to manage our economy. You need to have 5 villagers on one wood, 5 villagers on the other. I always and I highly recommend you to separate those woods if possible, if you have the option. Let's imagine your opponent places a tower behind this wood. If you had 2 lumber camps on this one, you just lost 2. But since you have those woods in separated places, you are not going to suffer from this issue. And right now we have 20 populations composed of 19 villas and 1 scout. So what we want to do right now to prepare ourselves to go for scouts is to get a villager, order this villager to make a barracks and a house, or a house and a barracks, it doesn't matter the order. Both will be ready by the time you are on Feudal Age. Let's unpause it and let's do those procediments. The house and then the barracks. Meanwhile, the villages that were on the TC are finishing to read the sheep. Our hunters here are finishing to hunt the deers, and we are distributing the villagers on the wood. I like to distribute the villagers, 1 villager for each piece of wood. This minimizes the chance of the villagers getting stuck into each other, which is better for your eco. Making the barracks. We are scouting everything. We already know the enemy position. By now you can already know what he's doing, so there's no issue. We're about to eat the last deer. Look the amount of food we have on the bank already, guys. 400 food. It's ridiculous. This strategy is just ridiculous. You just joined Feudal Age, being able to do as much scouts as you want to do. And we are just about to reach Feudal Age around 9 minutes, so 9 minutes and 20, something around that. So it's very fast. I'm even a bit late, it seems. Huh? Now that we are on Feudal Age, let's make a stable. I always like to make with at least 3 villagers because it helps us to maximize the speed with which we are rushing. Upgrade the wood already and send the villagers to start collecting the berries. By now, your hunt should be over, or even before that if you already only had 3 deers. What I'd like to do here is to move the views to the berries. So basically, I'm going to move the villagers to the berries, add some more views to the berries, start making scouts, and I will keep 1 villager making houses and later palisades if I want. I already queued up 3 scouts. I already made the wood upgrade. I'm now going to make the horse collar upgrade. I also have 6 views collecting berries, and those 6 views, they will be collecting those berries for a long time because I just started right now. And right now it's all about adding farms around the TC with the villagers that finished the ship. If you lure it, you were already with a mill since Dark Age, so you wouldn't need the second mill. Now it's pretty much the standard build that we already are familiar to, right? Which is basically adding farms around the TC, developing the eco. Right here we have 6 views on the berries and 7 farms. As soon as you reach the number of 14 views on the food, it might be like 8 farmers and 6 views on the berries. Will be able to keep making scouts and producing villagers non-stop. But if you do not have resources for both, I would recommend you to give priority to the villagers and just work with the scouts you have. It's like 11 minutes and a half. It's quite soon, guys. It's quite soon. Sometimes if a player went for a Russian archers, he's not even on feudal age to do something, and you already have 4 scouts to raid him. So there's a lot of potential on what we are doing. We can just raid the gold, the berries, the meal, get villagers walling. You can already put a lot of pressure on the opponent, and that's how I want to be. Very aggressive here on the beginning. And meanwhile, you develop the eco on your base. Remember that we have 10 views on the wood. We're about to have now 14 views on the food. I just need one more farm. And I have a builder, which is making both houses and palisades for us, which helps us to defend our map. Look at this. And if I want, I can just go back now to make scouts. Now let's make a break because it's like 12 minutes, past 12 minutes. We already set it up our eco. We have 10 villagers on the wood, 5 on each one, another villager here that we just made, and we have 14 views on the food. With this amount of resources, we can pretty much keep making scouts during all the game if you want. But now it's time for us to choose what is our next step. We can go now and play with any of the army compositions based on scouts that I showed previously on this guide. So we can go for scout and archers, we can go for scout and skirmishers, we can go for full scouts. We can even go for scouts into Mangudais, already start collecting stone and prepare to drop a castle once we are in the next age. So basically, we are just going to have to work now on a transition, but the regular build for population 20 scouts is like this. If you just want to go castle age, just add extra views now to the gold and be ready to click up. Let's now work on the next transitions for this build. Alright guys, and here I am to make the first transition here. We did some scouts during Feudal, and now we are going to make the transition to the next stage. We are actually going to castle. In order to do that, what I'm going to do? I'm just finishing my walls here with some views. I still have the 14 views on the... I still have the 14 views on the food, and I'm sending the next 4 villagers here to start collecting gold. If you stop making scouts, this is going to be more than enough. Finishing this house. I'm going to make a blacksmith. Once we have 4 views on this gold, we will have enough villagers to collect 200 gold for us to go up, and we can already make the wheelbarrow upgrade. Wheelbarrow upgrade. If you already know that you are going to go knights and you want to accelerate your uptime, by now you can even remove some views from the wood and start making farms. This will accelerate a bit your uptime, but do not overreact. The maximum amount of views you need to have on the food, is 18. With 18 views, you can pretty much keep the night production and the view production with 1 TC and 2 stables non-stop. And you are also not going to suffer to make the upgrades. So if you want, you can already start making the new farms. We'll start here slowly. 1 farm, 2 farm, Or, even better, we can use the mill, huh? 4 farms. Right now, with 12 farms and those views here of the berries, we are going to have more than enough resources to make our way to the castle age. Let's make some more views now that we finished the wheelbarrow. And I'm also going to put those guys on the gold. It's also a good idea to start switching some of your views from the berries to new farms, because those berries are eventually going to run off, even if we started taking those late. Our builder's working hard, finishing here the blacksmith. We have less views on the wood because we already made new farms. I'm even going to make one more view. I don't care. Our builder is going to move to the front. We are going to make our second stable. And we are about to click up. There we go. And now we have 2 approaches. I'm making an approach to keep making knights non-stop. Once I'm on Castle Age, I will be able to keep making knights without any trouble. The only thing that I will need to do in order to do that is to complete the number of views on the gold. In order to keep 2 stables working non-stop, we will need at least 12 views on the gold. But right now, we are starting with something around 8 on the gold. Huh? Where's our 8th view? It's here. So we just need to add extra 4 views once we are in castle, and we never again have to worry about this because our stables will be working like factories. Let's talk about the upgrades. Gold mining, very important, especially to float the knights. Bloodlines, having extra life on your knights is also important. And of course, scale barding armor. I always start upgrading the knights bar their armor. This will gives them a lot of resistance. It will take a lot of arrows to take down one knight. Let's also work on the farms here. Making a transition. This villager can now keep making houses for us. Remember that we are walled, we are protected. Adding more farms. We have still 18 views collecting resources here, collecting food. And as soon as we reach Castle Age, and we are going to reach Castle Age between 18, 19 minutes until 20, 21 at the maximum. Depending on the amount of scouts you did, of course. If you did more, you would reach it a bit later. It's just a matter of messing up scouts. Messing up knights, sorry. So let's start messing up knights here. If you have to fight versus a lot of archers or a huge composition, we can even make a case to add chain barding armor very soon, which is what I'm doing here. And of course, there are now 2 different approaches. The first one relies on making knights non-stop and delaying our boom a bit. And the second one relies on already start to boom. But we are focusing on the knights on this one. So to focus on the knights, I will just complete the gold here with extra views. By the way, guys, this is a very generic build. So if you just want to do something similar with other civilization, you are probably going to achieve a similar result. We are going to put these extra views on the gold. As soon as we finish the berries, we are going to make new farms. That's a better place for the farm. Making knights don't stop. And around now, guys, it's 20 minutes and we haven't invested into any farm or a new TC. And I'm not going to invest into a new TC. And the reason is quite simple. We have the minimum amount of views here on the wood. We only have like 7 views taking wood. We have 18 farms in total. 6 to keep the TC. 6 to keep one stable, 6 to keep the other. We are about to finish the views on the gold, to have 12 here on the gold, which will make our stables never to stop again. We are finishing the chain barding armor, which is the key here as a knight player to be able to get some knights, especially versus groups of archers. So the next step here is to improve our economy because all of our farms are going to run off between 22 and 23 minutes. Look at those farms. 63 food, 63, 55, 55, 57, 72. So we have some very limited time of the lifespan of those farms. We are already investing into Reviplow. I like this because this will add 125 food to all the new farms, to the farms of the next generation. Oh my god, I forgot to upgrade the wood. Sorry guys, oh my god. That's a blooper? That's probably a blooper. But we should have upgraded this as soon as we reached Castle Age. So I'm upgrading the wood. That's why I had way too much resources. Huh? We upgraded the mill, we upgraded the wood, we did this chain-barded armor, we are making the knights. We have now 12 views on the gold, which means that our stables are fully sustainable right now. And we can already send all the new villagers to the wood. I'll keep this villager as our official builder. Take a look right here. The farms are around to run down, but we are going to have exactly the amount of wood we need to remake all the farms. And look at the amount of knights, man. We already have a very solid amount of knights here. Of course, if you need, you can already start making more upgrades for your knights, such as the attack, the forging, or such as the husbandry to get closer to their opponents. Look at the farms, all being made. We have the resources to do that. I'm already going to invest into the forging here. We are playing full knights. This is a good approach to play with knight civs, but if you want to force up knights with Mongols as well, which is an option, you can just do it. You'll see that we do not have enough wood for a TC yet. The reason is we are still remaking the initial farms. Those will take more time to be remade, so that's fine. And I'm also upgrading husbandry. We have the +1, we have husbandry. We can soon have the +2. So basically that's how we play full knights. One stable, full knights, no regrets, full aggressive. If you do this with all the investment we are doing tonight and with all the investment we are doing in the upgrades, you need to be doing a lot of damage. You won't be able to play passive if we choose to go into this path, okay? Let's already make our second TC now. It's more than time to do it. I recommend you to slowly add your town centers, especially if you're playing the current meta, which gives a lot of priority to the army. Huh? So once you finish to make one TC, my suggestion is already took the 6 villagers that you used to make this TC, and as soon as you can, add 6 extra farms. Meanwhile, we are just spamming knights non-stop, guys. It's like 25 minutes, we already have all these knights. We are developing the economy, we upgraded the wood, we upgraded the mill, all the new farms are being born with the bonus. Those 4 farms are about to run off, but that's no issue. And now that we have 2 TCs, we can already add new farms to it. So we had 18 farms, we want to reach the magic number of 24 now. And by the way, the stables don't stop. If you are playing full knights, the stables don't stop. It's not a thing that I recommend a lot for the Mongols, but if you actually need to play knights, that's a good way of doing it. We add in the farms, we are about to reach the 24. Okay, there we go. We have, right now, 25 already, huh? We even get past 24. Okay, so now we are also ready to add another TC or invest into a new lumber camp, or if you want to still to play even more aggressive, you can even add more stables, alright, before adding the extra TCs. So that's the most aggressive approach I have for Mongols with knights here. Adding now a new TC. Forgot the houses, huh? If you want, you can even finish to upgrade the knights with iron casting. let's invest here into a new lumber camp. As soon as we finish this TC, you guys already know what we are going to do. We are going to complete the next 6 farms. We already have 25, so we need to escalate up until 30 or 31. Not so difficult, right? Right now, we can just keep the TCs working, keep the stables working, and we boom our way to the next step of the game. So guys, that was the complete transition. Now it's all about booming or deciding to go for more stables, which I do not recommend for the Mongols. I recommend booming. I recommend just keeping less stables and actually focusing on the boom. But if you need to play a team game, if you go and play like this, your ally will probably be happy because you are just going to be messing a lot of knights and so on. Right here, I'm already getting delayed because I have plenty of wood and I should be already investing to make the next transitions, to make the next decisions, to make extra TCs, to make a market, to make more stables. So there's a lot of things that we should be doing. But this is basically the follow-up for the scouts and knights. If you want to play full knights, that's a good way of doing this. Now let's move and go again to play with crossbows instead. Alright guys, so in the previous build we just opened with scouts and I showed the first transition, which was transitioning to full knights, build to keep making knights non-stop. We are going to do it in the opposite way now. We are actually going to make a transition here into full archers. So basically, to make the full archers, what do we need to do? First, we need to start collecting gold. So we are already sending all our new villagers to the gold. I'm sending 2 villagers that we have here and the 4 next ones also to the gold. I'm also going to add the archer range. And let's imagine that we're playing a longer feudal. In order to be able to start messing all those archers without any trouble, we might even be forced, guys, to add sometimes extra scouts to keep raiding and pressuring. So one of the follow-ups to this scout strategy is just to add a few more. Maybe sometimes 3 or 4 scouts are not enough. Maybe you have opening to kill the enemy army or the enemy scouts, so there's no issue in just keep adding more. We are making the first archer range. We are about to make the second. We already have 4, about to have 5 views on the gold. So every archer range you make, the minimum amount of villagers you need to keep the archer production is 3. Remember that 6 villagers won't be enough for us, guys. It's very important to make sure that 6 villagers is just to keep the archer production. 3 villagers for each archer range. But we are actually having to add more villagers because we are not just going to make archers. We are going to upgrade those archers. We are going to make fletching, bodkin arrow, ballistics. We are going to go up to the castle age. We are going to make crossbow upgrade. So we will need to add more views to the gold. There we go, 6 villagers here on the gold, making the wheelbarrow, making archers on the 2 ranges. It's still working on a lot of knights here, making houses. If you want, you can give already priority to some upgrades. You can either make like 0 upgrades just to mess up some food to go to the castle, or if you want to be more aggressive with the scouts, you might give priority to getting some gold and upgrading bloodlines, maybe their armor to fight versus enemy scouts or enemy archers, or you can just even upgrade the gold to already boost your gold production. That's also an option that people do not remember so often. So basically, I'm producing archer over 2 ranges. I have a constant production by now. Gonna make now the blacksmith. I'm going to add all my new villagers to the gold. Why, Stark, are you adding the new villagers to the gold? You already have enough. Because I have to make the upgrade and I will need to collect at least 200 gold. I will have to accumulate gold now to go to the castle age. So in order to accumulate gold to go to the castle, I'm going to send at least 4 new villagers to the gold, getting a total of 10 views. If you already want to use these archers into an aggressive situation, all you have to do is to upgrade the fletching, and you are ready to use those guys already on Feudal. Or if you want to play more passive, you can just skip this upgrade for a while, okay? Making houses. Remember that we had all those farms. We are about to have the decision here about the farms, how much farms we want, but at least some you are going to do, so let's switch it already. You are hardly going to play with less than 12 farms, so we have 10. We have already 10 views on the gold. I'm going to make like 2 more to have 12 views on the gold. You guys are soon going to understand, but not now. Making the switch here to the 11th and the 12th farm. Now those villagers finish the berries, we can already send them to the wood. I guess that 12 views on the food, if we stop it making scouts and so on, will be more than enough for us to go up and to do anything we want. I will now just keep adding villagers to the wood. We are going, guys, to need a lot of wood. One of the reasons that we are going to need all this wood is we need to make the ballistics later. We need to invest into a university, and this is very costly. So if you want to play with full archers, that's the approach I recommend you. First, you click up to the castle age. We have at least 12 views here, so those villagers will accumulate a lot of gold for us, allowing us to make even a third range, which is what I'm making now. Gate will be needed. Upgraded the fletching. If we didn't upgrade it before, that's a good time to do it. If you want to play in a more aggressive way, that's a good build when you are actually giving priority to army instead of giving priority to building. We already have a good amount of archers. Remember that the strength of the archers rely a lot on their numbers, so the more archers you have, the more numbers you have, the stronger your gameplay will be. If you just lose a big mass of archers, you are only going to be strong enough with them, or you are only going to be safe to leave your base once you have more. So it's essential for you to not lose your archers. So just keep them safe, just keep them where you can actually manage. And once you have a big mass, you can even fight their own counters. There we go. 3 ranges working. As soon as we reach, guys, the castle age, there are a few things that we're going to do. We are going to upgrade army. We are going to upgrade economy. Let's do it. First, upgrade army. The basic upgrade for the crossbowman. The crossbowman upgrade and the bodkin arrow upgrade, which will add you extra attack and extra range. Always give priority to attack than armor when you are using archers or any other ranged unit. Second, the ballistics. I suggest making a university as soon as you can. This can be the difference between have ballistics faster than your opponent or not. Upgrade, now I'll go for the economy, upgrade the wood, which is the bow saw upgrade is the key here. Remember that to make the ballistics, we are going to need around 175 gold and 300 wood, and we made it. We successfully upgraded ballistics. If you want here, by now there's also a few other decisions that I want to talk about. You do not need to keep like 12 views on the food. That may be too much. To keep the TC working, you only need 6, and the other 6 are just accumulating unnecessary food. So one of the things, if you want, is not remake the new farms. And since we already have 12 views on the gold, if we want, we can already invest here, guys, into a 4th archer range to fully focus here on army. So we can go for the 4th archer range, or we can already start saving up wood to add more town centers and boom. So if you are playing a team game, that's a more balanced option. Just keep 3 TCs working. I'm not remaking those farms. Not for now. I'm just sending my new villagers to the woods. Uh-oh, I forgot about the house, huh? And I think that I truly forgot here, guys. We always need to have a builder. We are going to need a villager to keep making houses non-stop for us for now until the end of the game. Right here, once again, you can decide if you want to boom. If you want to boom, it's just a matter of adding new town centers. Or if you want to go full army. If you want to go full army, I also suggest you to use this massive resource that we have here, this mass of food, to actually upgrade Thumb Ring. It's very costly, 300 food and 250 wood. But if the game can be decided over battling with archers, you already have ballistics, you already have 3 range, and now with Thumb Ring, you have what you are lacking to finish your opponent. Do not force yourself to add the town centers very soon. Sometimes just add the town centers very quickly, but you cannot keep them producing, so sometimes it's better to just make a small investment into new lumber camps, or maybe a 4th archer range. I'm insisting on this 4th one because honestly, we already invested a lot into army. Once we finish this TC, we are going to have to start making new farms. We are going back to 12 farms because we are going to need at least 6 farms for each town center. So once you build a town center, go and build extra farms until you have around 12. Our house builder cannot stop. Uh-oh, the enemy, we are not overwhelming our enemy yet. Right now, you can already choose if you want to add more archer ranges and play with almost no eco, just focusing on army. And we have seen, guys, a lot in the past tournaments. Or you just keep adding new town centers and go for the booming. Since I'm Mongol, I would actually benefit more from booming because my Imperial Age is stronger. So let's add another TC. Keep adding views, keep adding views, keep making archers, don't stop. Remember, guys, that right here we have ballistics, we have Thumb Ring. We can also upgrade the armors of the crossbowmen to make more effective trades of crossbowmen versus crossbowmen. But usually in a team game, you are going to be playing with both crossbowmen and knights from your ally. We combine this approach that we are making here with the approach that we did in the previously build. And we would have a massive army of something around 30 knights or 35 knights and more than 50 archers. So this is pretty much enough for you to just join your opponent's base and keep harassing his eco. We made it to see. What we're going to do is spend all the wood we have to make, as soon as we can, the next farms here. Alright, once we finish those farms, it will mean that our eco will be sustainable and we can just keep making a lot of crossbowmen and we can just keep making a lot of farms. Then it's all about decisions. Once again, do you want to rush your way to the Imperial Age? Force up a lot of farms here. Go up to 30 farms. We only have 18. So 12 more farms and keep sending the other guilds to the gold. And you are going to just keep pressure your enemy with the crossbows until you go to the arbalest. Want to still play on the castle age? You still need more crossbowmen. You can even choose to instead add more views to the gold already. And instead of adding the farms, drop extra archer ranges to still play on the castle. This, of course, will be more effective if you play with civilizations that are more oriented to this approach, like the Mayans, the Ethiopians, the Saracens. But still, if you need to play archers with the Mongols, you can as well. So basically, that was the follow-up of full crossbows. If you want to be greedy, even add a 4th archer range while doing this. Huh? Why not? With some civilizations like Chinese, where you have discounts on your upgrades and some other bonus, this is quite easy to be done. So that was the second build. Alright, guys, we are going to another follow-up. We are also going to make the knight follow-up again. Remember, of course, if you want to go for the knight, one of your priorities is to have your base secure from enemy raidings. And how can you do this? By finishing your walls as soon as you can. We are also going to add 4 views now to the gold. Right after those 4 views, we're going to add the wheelbarrow. And since we already know we're going for knights, we are going to take off some views from the wood and add some extra farms. Since we were Mongols and since we used the deers, we still have plenty of berries, so we do not have to make some huge investments by now, which is obviously great for our eco. It helps. Our eco appreciates what we're doing. We're finishing to do this, finishing to build the walls. I'm giving this view back to the wood. We have right now only 8 on the wood. In order to advance to the next stage, of course, we need another building, which can be the blacksmith or even the market if we're going to play very passively on it. Right after we finish the wheelbarrow, we are also going to add 2 extra views here to the goat. And we can even make a transition here from the berries to farms. But we can wait a bit. We have like 10 farms, 6 views on the berries, 16 views collecting food. This will obviously gives us a lot of speed on our up to castle. I'm getting our builder and sending him to the other side. I'm already thinking about adding a second stable. It's very early on the game, but we just did a small raiding and we are now transitioning to the castle age. Enemy scouts here. We're ignoring it a bit. Making a house. We have right now 6 views on the gold. We're about to add a 7th one. And we are also about to click up to castle. So that's the beauty of this build. What are we going to do? We are going to fake that we are going full knights. So I'm adding the second stable. I'm going to start making knights. But instead of over-investing here into farms and over-investing into the booming, I'm just going to keep the minimum amount of views. And I'll actually prioritize getting the TCs done. Upgrading the bloodlines, upgrading the scale barding armor, upgrading the gold. I'm not going to focus here, guys, on adding a lot more knights. I will, of course, start with a good amount. Be walled. Oh my god, the Parkston Scout, eh? Terrible joke. Okay. And we are actually, the goal of this build is to drop 2 TCs immediately after we reach Castle Age. If we are able to do that, while still doing some camels or maybe some knights, we can just starting to surpass our enemy regarding the villager number. I have cooled up some views, I'm making some armor, I'm getting some wood, and as soon as we reach the castle age, guys, what I'm going to do is to drop 2 Newton centers. I'm going to drop the first one there and the second one here. Dropping to C, making knights, upgrading the wood, but see the difference is we are not going to mass a lot of knights. I'm just going to start with a few knights. I can even move these guys out of the gold and focus on the boom. I will just keep like 3 views on the gold here. Starting with the knights. Sometimes I will just use those early knights to kill a group of archers or to tell this guy, hey, I'm going knights. And he would just be thinking, oh my god, I have to deal with the knights. I might have to make camels. I might have to prepare to defend from them. But I will not be doing it. I'm actually just focusing on having here enough views on the food and on the wood and booming. So basically, now that I have 3 TCs, my priority is actually into getting up to 18 farms. There we go. 3 TCs working. We are fighting the enemy with our current knights. But we are not making more knights. We're just booming. And now it's all about decisions. Do we want to make more knights? If we want to keep making knights, what do we need to do? We can restart sending views to the gold and focus a lot on adding extra farms just to keep our night production. Or if we just want to make a full switch to boom, we just wait a bit to add a fourth town center, and while we wait we can already restart to adding some farms, and we go for the full booming approach. We're going to make some hybrids, so I already have the TCs. I will add more farms to keep the knights. By the way, if you want to capitalize over the wheelbarrow like we did previously, that's the last moment you have to upgrade it. If you also upgrade it with a market, you can even trade the excedent of gold that you collected for some food. Right here, while this guy is chasing my knight, I'm actually going to add a 50 town center, guys. So that's when you make a transition, fake some knights, and just go for the booming. I love to use this approach on Mega Random. My knights are not getting anything, I know. And I'm already focusing here on the booming. Now I'm also going to use this opportunity to show you the eco for the Mongol boom. As Mongol, you want to do this, the minimum amount of army as possible, and actually focus on getting to the next stage, to Imperial Age. Getting castles up is also helpful for our build because we might have some difficulty to defend. So if you want to defend, a good advice is to already put a lot of views on the stone and upgrade the stone mining upgrade. Another advice that I give you is to prioritize getting 24 farms. If you have 40 Cs, 24 is the minimum amount of farms you need to keep your eco sustainable. And then we're going to move to bigger goals. So, if you want to buy more time for yourself, you can already add more knights and more farms. That's an option, okay. But if you just want to make an economy that will allow you to play with elite Mangudai, my suggestion is go up to 36 to 40 farms. So we need to spend farms a lot. Use all the excellent wood we have here to place new farmers. We need this huge investment because not only we need to keep our 40 Cs working, but we also need to mess up resources to go to Imperial Age. So this is really needed. We're being attacked, which is obviously not cool. If you can just make buildings behind to defend, that's the optimum way. But if you have to invest into a siege workshop or something like this, that's still okay. We're almost finishing our farms here, which is great for us. I'm already moving to the second stone mine. Invest into new lumber camps. We might need to make more houses. Drop a castle. Oh, by the way, we are past 8 views, so more than time to make the handcart. We forgot to upgrade the stone. I thought that I clicked it. It was actually a misclick, guys. So I thought that I had the stone mining upgrade by the time we had 7 views here on the stone. So that's also something you want to look for. Already going to put a lot of views on the stone. This will accelerate the speed with which I'm going to make to produce my castles. Putting a lot of views on the gold. We actually want to reach Imperial Age with around 30 villagers on the gold. A lot, right? But that's our goal. If you want to hurry up your before making the castle, you can just make a university and a siege workshop. If you want to hurry up or if you do not have enough stone, those 2 buildings are going to be used during Imperial Age in any way, so you are not missing anything from it. Let's click up to Imperial Age. Now we are going to focus 2 TCs on the gold. The other can be focused on the wood. Remember that we have around 40 farmers here. We have actually 39. Let's make one more to make a round number. just to be easier for us to remember later. And of course, alright, start making Mangudais. Your castles can be used as great defensive tools. For example, I'm going to make another castle here that will help me protect this gold and this stone. If you still have the knights on, go raiding. This is not a group that will actually save you from any army, it will just a group to raid. And start upgrading the Mangudai. Finish upgrading the eco, the stone to maximize the speed with you are getting your castles, the gold to maximize your gold production. You can disrupt your opponents from getting monks, you can disrupt his eco. Making Mangudais. We are also going to need an archer range. We are also going to need to upgrade ballistics. We are already going to upgrade the fletching. Making Mangudais on both castles. That's one of the transitions that you want to do. You just do the minimum amount of army and focusing on the booming. And this, guys, is something that I have seen a lot of times, and I have to say, it works. That's how Mongol has to play. Focusing on the booming and getting Mangudais, not army. By the way, another goal that I give you is to reach at least the number of 4 castles to have at least an okay production of Mangudais. It's not a problem if your castles are too defensive, because you do not want to get trapped and lose the castle. So even if you make them here behind the TCs, I'm still fine with that. We are about to reach the Imperial Age, and let's make the upgrades that are more important. The Elite Mangudai, one of the most important ones. Conscription, this will help you to create the Mangudais faster. And of course the ones from both Blacksmith and University. On University you want to make the Chemistry. On the Blacksmith, after the Bodkin Arrow, you want to make the Bracer here. On the Stable, we've made the Bloodlines, so let's complete the Husbandry. On the Archer range, there are also some builds, some upgrades for us to do. We have to make the Tambourine and the Parting Tactics. Tambourine will give you more accuracy and speed, and Parting Tactics will give you bonus versus Halberdiers. And also going to give you extra armor. We finished the attack, let's go for the armor. We already have our army, it's almost fully upgraded. We have all around 30 views here on the gold, a bit less, but that's still okay. Now we have an army that can pretty much face almost any other army in the game. With a small group of elite Mangudais, you were already a very deadly player here. Now it's all about transitions, so I want to talk about 2 transitions from this point, from the point that you have the elite Mangudais. So one transition is more oriented for the 1v1 and the other is more oriented to team games. On 1v1s, often only having Mangudais won't be enough. Sometimes going for full Mangudai composition is an option. Playing with something like 80 Mangudais and 120 views, that's alright. But if you want, in most of the cases that won't be enough and you might have to add another unit, which will be the Roosters. So I was just going to talk about those transitions, but if you want to go for the Roosters, you are going to make a transition of your gold miners and your stone miners to farms. You are also going to upgrade the Rooster, add more stables, at least 5 or 6, and you are just going to start spamming them. I would gladly focus on getting the extra resources if I were you. So getting inside of this stone, getting those extra golds, maybe going after the relics if you didn't win before. So this will be quite important for you as the Mongol. And then you just add a lot of roosters. If you are playing 1v1, that's how you want to play. If you are playing on team games, there's probably someone on your team making cavalry or elephants or something like this. So you do not have to focus on roosters. What you want to focus here is siege. So you are just going to keep your villagers farming a bit longer in order to make to upgrade siege run, maybe siege onagers, siege engineers, drill, the upgrades you need. After that, you are just going to remove all the villagers from the farm and put those views on the wood. But we are moving to this point later on, okay? For now, let's just finish this build for now. Another suggestion that I give you is if you have idols, send them to the wood. You are going to consume a lot of wood to make the siege and to keep the Mangudai production. And basically that was the transition where you just fake a few knights. Maybe you want to do a few more knights before you do that, and you go into the full boom. This is the point of the game where every Mongol wants to reach, a point where you are on Imperial Age and making elite Mangudais. Let's just finish the upgrades. Parting tactics, the leather archer armor, a constant elite Mangudai production, and of course, now it's a good time for you to go for the extras if you haven't gone for them, like extra stone, extra gold. Make sure that you are able to get your golds as well. And already add siege or rooster or anything like this. GG. Alright guys, previously we did already a build that allowed us to make a lot of archers. It was a very crazy build, right? But right here, we are not going to do this. We are actually going to make just a few archers and get our way to the boom, and get elite Mangudais. If you have a map that's very easy to defend and also your allies might not get pushed so hard, you actually have to do what Mongols are good at. You have to go to the Imperial Age and start making elite Mangudais. You do not want to keep trading archer fights versus a Briton, versus a Vietnamese, versus a Chinese, versus any of the other archer civs. This is not good for you. You can even do it on the beginning, but you won't be able to do it later. So how are we going to proceed? We are going to do exactly what we did before when we were fighting versus when we were doing archers. I'm making the archer range, I'm sending views to the gold, a minimum of 6, I'm actually dropping 2 ranges. But here we are actually going to focus on booming instead of making archers. We are just going to keep a minimum amount of archers to maybe defend ourselves, trade some archers with the enemy, maybe help our allies, maybe raid the enemy economy. So we made the archer range, let's start making archers. But we are actually going to focus on the booming. I put 6 villagers here on the gold, actually 7. Making the wheelbarrow, we'll add some extra views later on to allow us to go up. Make a house, make a blacksmith. This time I'm not adding extra scouts. I'm playing more defensive. Let's say that you were playing a mega random, you were able to raid a bit, but now you know that your opponent is actually going to attack you with some army, so you need an army to defend. And I honestly rather defend having archers than defend having knights. I feel like with the archers you can just micro, use them behind walls, not allow your enemy to touch you. So they are quite comfortable to play with. There we go, we finished the wheelbarrow, we are making some extra views. Making some extra farms. Just switching here the farms from the berries to the views from berries to farms. We are about to click up. If you want to click up very soon, you can either add the villagers faster, or you can just idle your archer range a bit, which might be the approach that I would choose to do here. I have like 9 views here. Going to the woods. Sometimes when you do not want to focus on army, what you can do is to get your army in smaller groups and just use them to try to hit and kill the enemy economy, force him to go after your army. Do not just stay messing, you know. Go after, try, even if you lose those archers, they are not the focus of your game. We are actually focusing on booming. Upgrading the gold, we are about to upgrade the fletching as well. We are not going to invest a lot into farms. I'm just going to remove those views from the berries to the wood because we are actually investing into town centers. And the idea here is that I would just keep making the minimum amount of archers that I need to raid or defend myself or buying time, and I will actually focus on the booming. This is a way that Mongol can benefit more from its bonus, because instead of just playing a full Castle Age versus a civilization that might have a good power spike during Castle Age, I can just skip to the Imperial. So basically this is how we want to attack. We do not need a bigger army, we just need to have a small army in the exactly correct place. If your enemy didn't wall, or if you leave it left some hole, you can just go here, trade your archers for some views, even if you eventually lose your archers afterwards. Right now, as soon as we reach the castle age, what I'm going to do is upgrade the archers and drop 2 new TCs. Crossbowman, bodkin arrow, wood upgrade, and dropping 2 new town centers. Sometimes if you go castle very fast, you can use your initial crossbowmen to raid in 1 or 2 places. I'm also taking off some of those views from the wood, from the gold. I will just keep the minimum amount of villagers, 6 views here. That's the minimum to keep my two ranges working. So I will just keep 2 ranges. And I'm actually going to focus on adding new farms. How much farms I'm going to add? Until I have the minimum of 18. Because with 18 I can keep 3 TCs working. And I'm already booming, thinking about developing my eco instead of upgrading my army. So that's an approach where you do not need to do a lot of damage. It's good if you do, but that's not the focus. The focus here is not on army. We're just doing the minimum here. Of course, we're still going to need our builder. If you are able to trade your army with your opponent's army, or raid, or just buy time, by trade I mean just letting he kill some units while you kill some of his, but only if this is advantageous for you. For example, if I just trade my army for his feudal age army like I'm doing here, this is going to slow him down. But if he has like 40 crossbowmen and I don't, maybe that's not the idea. Okay, so I already have 18 farms. Good time for me already to make the heavy plow. I'm even a bit out of timing. I even forgot about that. Right here, I can just keep those archer ranges producing crossbowmen non-stop. If you can hide from your opponent that you are booming, or that you do not have the ballistics, for example, is always good. It's always a mind game. This guy won't know how much we're actually focusing on the booming. Right here, for example, we are already adding a 4th town center to boom. So we are focusing a lot in the booming. But our opponent has no way of knowing that. And that's the beauty of this kind of strategy. This, of course, won't be a great meta if you're playing an Arabia or some regular game, but you can trick some opponents with some experience and do this. We still have a good army. We can also work with our allies, walk together, upgrade already stone. We are already thinking here about switching to castles. Once we finish this town center, you guys already know what we are going to do. Let's already spend farms. How many farms do we want to reach here? We want to go until 40 farms. That's how we boom. Between 36 to 40 farms. That's my personal recommendation for the Mongol boom. Basically, if we have wood, we have to be dropping farms. And if that's our focus, sometimes I even stop making crossbows, right? We can just achieve this goal very fast. Doing it. We can already start moving back to the gold. Let's move back to the gold. Let's even get all those views and put them back on the gold. There we go, around 40 farms. We also are around 80 views, so this is also a good opportunity for us to make the handcart. And guys, right here, we did some crossbows. So we did have some army to defend ourselves, or at least annoy the opponent or force his army to follow us. And we are almost ready to go to the next stage. What can we do now? If you want, you can already make some buildings like the university, a siege workshop maybe to make a mangonel and help you defending yourself. But you can be already thinking about dropping the castle already. Huh? Let's add some more views to the stone to accelerate the process of making up the castles. Oh, we forgot another build, eh? Let's make a monastery. But we are already ready to go up and go for the elite Mangudai. If you want to, you can delay this boom, of course, to keep adding more archers, but this is totally different from going full archers. Sometimes you are even going to upgrade ballistics, or sometimes you won't be able to defend only with a few archers. You might have to make another archer range, make more upgrades. But right here, we're just fine. Completely fine. Upgrade the second stone shaft, stone shaft mining. Upgrade the gold shaft mining. We already upgraded some of the upgrades for the Mangudai because we used the same upgrades for the crossbowmen. Let's send back our builder here to make houses for us. We have a castle. We are collecting gold. We are making more views to the wood. We have all the economical upgrades being done. So even if we lose our army here, the only goal of the army is buying us some time. So we are going to be fine. I'm even upgrading already the bloodlines, the armor, the thumb ring, starting making some Mangudais, making more castles. Oh no, we lost our army. Are we going to die? No, we are not, because we already have the castle to help defending our eco, and we are already making the Mangudai. And look at our eco. Look at this balance. We have the resources to make elite Mangudai. We have the resources to upgrade bracer, chemistry. We are going to have the resources to do most of the things that we need to. Adding more views to the stone should be wiser. Having at least 17 here. We have around 30 views on the gold this time. We didn't in the previous attempt. Conscription, elite Mangudai, chemistry, bracer. We forgot, but ballistics should be done already. Another castle. Husbandry, parting tactics. After the bracer, we finish the armor. See? That's it. It's not even 35 minutes and we are already here spamming elite Mangudais, and we did play on the Feudal Age. We did some crossbows on the early castle. Sometimes, since we were Mongols, if we up faster, we could even pressure the opponent with our own crossbowmen, forcing this guy to make a elite skirmisher or make a tower or just delaying his boom. But the thing is, we are right now spamming elite Mangudais. We are about to finish all the upgrades of those elite Mangudais. We are finishing to make our fourth castle. We can even think now about upgrading the siege, as I have told you. So that was the approach here, where we go for a few army, a few crossbows, not focus on the upgrades, and just switch to full boom and Mangudais. I hope you have enjoyed it. Alright guys, so I'm here to make the transition of the economy from Imperial to post-Imperial age in the team game scenario. Basically, we are on this point of the game. We boomed, we started making our Mangudais, we are already on the early Imperial age here, finishing to produce our castles and so on. So how do I like to play and make the transitions to the post-Imp? First, if possible, I find information about extra resources. If there's any extra gold or stone, those will be very valuable for us. Second, I untoggle the automatic farm replanting, and I switch at least half of my farmers, which means like 20 views, to the wood already. So I get those guys out of the farms and switch them to the wood. If possible, splitting them into different woods. Of course, we haven't stopped making Mangudais. Now we have only 20 views left on the farm. We are going to build up a market if we didn't have one yet. And we are already sending 3 villagers or 2 villagers to the corner to make our actual markets. The ones that we're going to use to make the trade. Why did we build the market? If we have an accident of resources like now, and we see that our opponents have not sold those resources, such as food or gold, and we can still have sell these resources for some good price, it's always good to sell. If you are the first one to sell, you are always going to get the best prices on the market. But if the opponents already sold those, no problem. We would just follow with the life. We can just upgrade caravan, upgrade later the coinage. Let's also remove more views here from the food. Let's keep a minimum of 10 villagers on the food, so I'm also moving those guys to the wood. Making the little Mangudais. I have plenty of views now in the wood. Once you finish collecting the goal here is to go for the extras. But if you do not have the extras, finish collecting your own gold. But idealistically, if you have access to the extras, this is essential for the economy that you actually use it. We finished making the market upgrade. We are finishing to make the markets. Now it's all a matter of how much gold do you have available, how much extra gold do you have available. If you have some extra gold available, you can just start trading with 4 markets. But if you do not have any extra gold and you might be very short on gold and very soon, my recommendation is overreact on the speed of your trade to be produced by adding a lot of markets. Play with something like 7 markets if possible, 6 or 7 markets. This might seem like an overreaction, but it's actually not. You are going to get without gold, and without gold in a team game you won't be able to make the Mangudais. Also, since it's a team game, after you mastered a lot of Mangudais, you are probably thinking about supporting your team with siege. So already build your siege and upgrade it. We have a lot of wood, more than enough to be able to produce to upgrade the siege. If you have an extra, use it. If you have relics, use them. If not, it's time now to spend trade cards. And the thing is, you need to have the most clear trade route as possible. We only have like 10 views on the food here, but it's good to have a minimum because not only we can use to upgrade the runs, the Ronagers and the other siege, but you can also use this to make coinage and help your allies. Maybe some of them might be needing some food. It's not all about yourself, right? Upgrade siege engineers also for your siege. Keep making here the trade. And you see that the amount of food we have will just be enough for us to finish our siege. Now we are spamming trade cards. If you stay some time without enough trade cards, it's very important that you do not waste your Mangudai, so do not pick bad fights, especially if you did not have another gold gap to use. Upgrade the siege run. We are also going to upgrade the drill. If we had resources, we don't have resources. This is almost a blooper, huh? But right now, our trade cards should be getting closer to our allies, making their first trip and already bringing the gold back. On this game, we are not going to see the effect of that because we do not have an ally. But in a team game, you would probably feel. And if you do not have an ally so far, one of the things that you can do is to start selling the accident resources. For example, right here we accumulated more than 4k wood because we have more than 80 views collecting wood. In this case, it's even fine for us to sell some of those resources to make some siege. I'm sold, and now I have a lot of resources, so I can already make some siege run. Since we are spamming the trade cards, oh, the villagers, once they finish the farms, you just send them to the ones that are not finished. After they finish most of them, then you can toggle the automatic farm again. And by the way, guys, since we are spamming a lot of trade cards, because we want to get to the trade up fast, we are also occupying way too much population. We only have like 62 army, which is not that great for the Imperial Age. So by now, you should be already also start to replace the villagers for trade cards. And you do this by deleting the views. Making the siege run. We have the drill upgraded. We are about to upgrade the siege onager with the 10 villagers, the 10 farmers that we had. Upgrading siege onager. So now we can spend siege, run, now we can spend siege, onager, and by now we should be already getting a lot of gold back from our trade. How many trades do I suggest for you to have as a Mongol player? A minimum of 30 trade cards. An average of 40 trade cards is good, especially if you know that you are not going to lose those trades. But of course, opponents are, if the things do not go well, eventually going to catch your trade. And because of this, it's also fine if you have a bit more. So often I go up to like 50 trade cards, maybe even 60. Even if I fail, in most of the games my allies are not trading properly. So I can also compensate this by having an accident of gold. By now imagine that we already had 2000 gold. And we could, oh my god, I actually went for like 10k gold. I did a small mistake. But that's the point that we want to achieve later with our trade. If we actually had an accident of gold, we can use it to buy even stone, which will be one of the most valuable resources. And what are we going to do with this stone? Place extra castles, because as Mongol we are extremely dependent on the castles. So if we get a bad fight, if an accident happens, if we actually lose our army, or if we actually lose our siege, we are going to need to make new ones. If you have like 6 castles, 7 castles, this will be much better. If we get in a situation where we only have like 2 or 3 castles, our enemy just has to kill our army once, and then he will be able to kill us. If you are feeling like you do not have enough trade cards, delete some views and replace those views by new trade cards. And that's basically how you want to manage your economy on the post-Imperial Age or during the Imperial Age in a team game. If you have this kind of composition, like almost no view on the golds, only trade cards, they are not showing here, but I know that I have 30 and we are about to get up to 40 trade cards, even a bit more. Go for a lot of siege and keep your Mangudais alive. If you just keep a big pack of Mangudais alive and you use the run to push the enemy, the siege to kill any kind of ranged unit, or even infantry and cavalry when they are close together, you are not going to die. Keep the Mangudai safe, keep using the siege, and that's the trade that you need. A lot of trade. If you have a lot of extras, start with 3 or 4 markets. If you do not have a lot of extras, you can go for 6 or 7 markets, and that's completely fine. But most important, manage your army in a wise way, because once you do it, you are not going to hurry up to rush up with the trade and so on. So that's the economy that you want to make, and that's the setup that you want for the post-Imperial Age on team games. Full Mangudai, Siege, even deleting more views if you want to. But I would not suggest you to go under 50 views on wood. Mongols like to use a lot of wood, so you are probably going to need those, okay? You are only going to make Mangudais and Siege in a team game scenario, so there's no need for the food. I'm only keeping like 8 views here because I will slowly accumulate some food, and if some of your allies actually need to ask you, oh my god, I actually need food for paladins, my eco got completely destroyed. If you just have like 1,000 food at your hands, it's just a small army of paladins that you are giving this guy, you know? And of course, if your trade starts running and you stop losing army, you are automatically going to accumulate gold. With the accumulated gold, you can sling some ally, you can buy some stone to add extra castles. For example, if I had this amount of gold that I have here, I would just start buying like a lot of stone and placing castles on the hills of the map to actually get more control over it, you know, like this. Control the hills, control the hills. If you are in a position where you need to defend your team, make some walls on the trade as well, should also be good. Even buying some stone to do those walls, upgrade the fortified, upgrade the masonry, upgrade your castles. That's all some useful stuff for the posting imp. That's how we want to play as the Mongols, okay? Half villagers on the wood, a lot of trade cards. We even deleted more views, but that's fine. And that's how the game will go. Full Siege, full Mangudais, GG. Alright, so here's the situation. We just boomed our way to Imperial Age, and we are on the early Imperial Age, starting to mess up the Mangudais, finishing to build our castles. We just finished the upgrades of the elite Mangudai, and we have to take action, we have to do something. So how are we going to play this matchup? So I'm going to tell you, there are 2 scenarios here. The thing that we are going to do is, we have 2 priorities here. We have to invest into Siege to finish the game, and we have to invest into Roosters for a longer game and to trade some army versus army without losing our Mangudais. So if we have a clear advantage on this game, or if we are actually fighting versus some guy with some heavy composition of arbalest, skirmishers, like a Vietnamese, might be the case of actually adding the siege first, because this way we can make onagers to counter the archers, or maybe runs to tank the damage and finish the game. Or if we are in an advantage versus a Frank, for example, or versus an Indian, it's just a matter of adding more Mangudais and forcing our way on this guy, using some runs, finishing his buildings, not allowing him to mess up the paladins to face us. So that's the situations where we're actually going to prioritize going for the siege. But if you are not so comfortable that you are going to finish the game already and you might have to set up for a longer game, then your priority is not getting the siege, is to get the roosters. It doesn't matter what the priority is, the thing is you are going to need siege and you are going to need roosters in any way. If you want to go for the full army, sometimes with only Mangudais and roosters, you might just not need onagers, just maybe some trebuchets or a few runs later to actually kill the enemy castles and finish the game. But the key is, around this point we have run around 120 views. We are just going to stop making views, we're not going to overboom, which I always do. And we are actually going to make a transition to roosters to play in the late stages of the game. So how do we do that? It's quite simple. First off, let's keep making the Mangudais. Start upgrading the rooster. Make a second blacksmith if you want to hurry up the upgrades. Start by the scale bard and armor, light cavalry. Add extra stables. How many stables should I have, Stark? Well, on the beginning, the maximum amount of stables that you are actually being able to keep working is 5. Why 5? Because you are going to need at least 8 villagers around 8 villagers for each stable, because you are going to need and since you have 40 farms, you can pretty much just keep like 5 stables working non-stop. Upgrade the rooster, upgrade the other armor, upgrade the attack. Armor is always the priority over the attack. Move to the gold. The villagers that are accident here, for now we can move to either to extras or to the wood. We are spamming Mangudais and we are spamming roosters. So we are making roosters and we are making Mangudais. This way we are just going to build a very bulky army. So if we're fighting versus a guy that has a huge army, and getting closer to him might mean that we are going to sacrifice a lot of Mangudais. That's exactly what we do not want to do. So from this point on, every time you fight, you actually want to fight in this following way. The roosters go in front, go ahead, clash with the enemy, the Mangudais stay behind, just killing the opponent. So let's say that you were fighting versus a Frank, and he's trying to do paladins. You go with the roosters start to engage with the paladin, the Mangudais are shooting non-stop. They're shooting non-stop, they're shooting non-stop, and the enemy starts to kill your roosters. Oh no, the enemy just killed my roosters. What do you do with the Mangudais? You go back, you mass roosters again, and you repeat the process. And this is how you actually win the games with this composition, because at some point your opponent won't have gold to keep wasting the army. He is the one running against time. You are just the one spamming roosters and Mangudais. Of course, if at this point you feel like you already have the advantage, might be a good time for you to go and start making siege. Start with runs, onagers are probably not the idea here. You can just outmass armies of ranged units with those roosters. Just send the roosters, send the Mangudais, go back. I'm even going to stop with the Mangudais for now. I have a pack of 50. Let's say that you just keep this fight. You use the roosters, and you lost all the roosters in the fight. What are you going to do? You are going to replace those roosters. But the thing is, you are going to be not so effective if you only have 5 stables. So the idea is that you should be getting higher numbers. And how do you do this? By having more stables. So you start with 5, then you add more stables. But at some point you might be short on the food. You might not be able to keep the production of all the stables. So what are we going to do? At this point you are probably finishing to eat all the resources. We finished eating the gold, we finished eating the stone. So we are going to switch now the eco to make farms. How many farms should I aim to do, Stark? Well, a good start is to have around 80 farms. Exactly what I said. Oh my god, that much? Yes, that much. Different from the team game composition, when you are playing 1v1, it's very important that you are able to actually do a lot of roosters and do it fast. And for that, you are going to need a lot of farms. And since it's a team game, might also be getting raided. So not only you are going to make the new roosters, but you might also be forced to make new villagers. So having a lot of those units is quite important. At some point, gold won't be a resource available on the map anymore. So you are going to rely on not losing your Mangudai and keep remaking your roosters non-stop. You go there, you trade again. You attack, the roosters are in the front, they are taking all the damage. You were avoiding to take any damage with the Mangudai, and you lost the roosters. What you do? You go back, you mass more roosters, and you repeat this process for as many times as you need. That's how you actually win the games as the Mongols. And one advice that I give you is, if you keep adding stables, you are just going to increase the speed with which you can replace your roosters. So if you have a lot of farms, we are getting closer to the number that we want here. We still do not have them because we have some builders, because we are still collecting some gold. There's still some gold available on the map. Then we're just going to trade. You go there, army versus army, throw the roosters at the front, throw the Mangudais behind, you fight. fight, 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 until the roosters die, then you go back. We have around 80 farms now, which means that we are very effective into replacing the roosters. And if we have a lot of stables, like we do have here, our Mangudai will never die. For example, if the enemy has skirmishers, he will try to minimize the number of Mangudai. You want to keep flooding his skirmishers constantly with your own roosters. If your opponent is just camping and you do not want to trade, that's fine. You do not have to trade. You just need to get your roosters, group them, call him to fight where you want to fight, kill his gold army, his paladins in case, take the Mangudai out of the range of the skirmishers or out of the range of onagers, and that's how we play 1v1. Usually I like to patrol the Mangudai with the staggered formation. Watch them not to get hit by onagers, and that's how you win the game. If you are having any kind of advantage, use your roosters to raid. And if you are not making roosters, then what? If you stop losing your roosters, what are you going to do? Quite simple. You are just going to trade the accident resources for gold. So basically you drop a market. Oh, we finished getting the gold. Let's imagine there's no more gold around the map. What are we going to do? A few more farms. Are we making new Mangudais? No, we are not. Why we are not making? Because we are not losing the Mangudais. And that's the idea. We are never losing the Mangudais. We are, at some point, even losing some roosters. Then what? Then we make new roosters. Get up to population 200 again. Repeat the process as much time as we need until we win the game. Oh, Stark, but I'm not losing the roosters. The game has calmed down a bit. The opponent is also saving his army. He has a similar composition. He's playing with keep checks and roosters. He's human. It's fine. If you are not fighting, what can you do? You can just get the accident food you have, that you are producing, trade for food, and voila, 1.k extra gold. What can you do with this extra gold? You can produce some trebuchets. You can go back to producing some Mangudai in case you have lost a few and you were never going to lose your mass, only a few. And you go back to the game, keep making roosters non-stop, try to keep your Mangudai alive, and there goes the life. Of course, you do not need to make all the roosters here. You can make some roosters to raid him, you can make some stables on the sides of the map, and that's how you are actually going to deal with both economy and army composition in a 1v1 scenario. Also important to keep moving your wood. Also important to invest into new lumber camps, like this, to still make your wood line effective. And if you lose roosters, no problem. They are almost an unlimited resource. You are prepared to keep losing and remaking this mid shield of yours during all day long if you need. At some point, if you even want to minimize a bit the number of views, it's fine. To have more army on the field, on the post-Imperial age, that's fine. Go around 110 or maybe 100 views just to have like close to 100 units on the field. I also see no problem into that. But if you have this huge amount of farms, you are probably going to have a good Imperial age. Because even if you have like no gold at all, you can just keep selling gold, and voila. Oh, Stark, it's just like 400 gold. Does it work? It does, because sometimes it will be the difference between having only roosters and Mangudai and making like 2 or 3 trebuchets to siege or to push a castle. So not only you are going to use this accidental food to produce roosters, but also to produce siege. That's how I like to play with my economy and army composition whenever I'm playing 1v1. Apart from that, I would only add siege, maybe some siege run. That's it, double G. Clicking up, In order to go for the two stable situation, what we need to do is to actually make our second stable, which is what I'm going to do. I deleted the blacksmith. Shit. We are going to add a lot of units here, a lot of DCs and views to boom our way to Imperial Age. If we need, we can just switch back to Knights, but if we don't, we can just rely on having a big mass of... Me perdi totalmente, que porra. Alright guys, and now to finish this guide, I want to watch a game. This game it was played on December of 2020, a few days ago, from the date that this video was recorded and posted. And it was the second game from the finals of the World Cup 2v2 between China and Norway. So from China here we had playing Mr. Yo and Lix, playing respectively as Mongols and Celts, versus MBL and Viper, who's now who due to some bug, his nickname is now single player, but I don't know how this happened. Anyway, it's actually Viper and MBL. And the thing is, Mr. Yo is playing here with the Mongols, and the map is Scandinavia. And look how amazing, I even have to go back here because I have to show you something really important. How Scandinavia works. You do not have berries, but you have a huge pack of deers, of 8 deers instead. And you also have a third boar. So there's plenty of hunts, which makes Mongol a very good choice for this map. And look how Yo's actually play. He finds his initial ship. Then he just found the boars. Found a few more ships. And look where he's going. He's already going to collect information. He's not scouting his base anymore. He's already getting the boar, so he just ate 1 chip and he's already collecting the first boar. So he's already giving priority to the hunt. He just stolen a chip from MBL, and he already knows where MBL is located and also told his teammate Lix. So right now, Mr. Yo and Lix know about MBL's location. He's right here, he's trying to lure a deer. And meanwhile, Mr. Yo is actually collecting information. Since this is a water map, Mr. Yo will be kind of forced to play with 5 villagers on the wood. Because if he doesn't do that, he won't be able to make a dock. And you need to make a dock on those maps in order to exploit the bonus that you might have from the fish. Right now, he already told his partner where MBLTC is located, where his woods located, where his gold's located. Pretty much it's like 3 minutes of the game and he already explored his resources. He's eating the second boar already. He only ate 1 sheep and he's about to collect more information now about the Viper. Oh, his nickname updated now. Nice game, huh? Uh-oh, he almost killed a scout here and he's already eating now the 3rd boar. So it's like 4 minutes and a half. Yo is now eating the 3rd boar, only ate 1 sheep, so he's giving full priority to the hunt in order to profit from his bonus. He has 5 views on the wood and he started now to make fishing ships. Amazing, right? Lix is already here, trying to lame Viper. So his partner was actually attacking and drushing Vipers on Viper's gold here. Very aggressive. And meanwhile, Mr. Yo was getting ready to go up. And here, guys, here's the beauty of the game. Huh? Right here, Yo just finished it to scout MPL, to scout Viper, and now he's coming to scout the shore. He's walling himself. He made a meal here to already profit from the deers, and he's already going to make a barracks, guys. So his plan initially was to play with scouts. So right here, Mr. Yo assumes that MBL dock is on the back. He knows that Lix is actually disrupting a bit Viper, and he plans to go scouts. But look how life is, huh? He's not collecting gold, he's making a barracks, and he just found a view. So he found a view, and MBL is trying to make a dock. What does Lix think at this moment? What does Yo think at this moment? Okay, MBL will try to get the water, but that's fine. He only has a dock, I'm about to get him. I have plenty of time to react to that. And meanwhile, he's already collecting a lot of deer. He's fishing with 4 fishing ships, MBL now has made a dock, but one of the issues is Yo was prepared to go for scouts. So he's not get ready yet to go for the fire galleys. He's doing the first, and now he started to collect gold, because if he didn't, he wouldn't be able to actually do the galleys. The other issue is he doesn't know yet, but NBL actually has already 2 docks, so he can probably force up on Yo. But the thing is, leaks is annoying, is very annoying. I recommend you guys to watch this game either on YouTube or somewhere else, but basically what leaks did was he lamed Viper, forced Viper to wall himself and use this back gold. Viper was now trying to defend his own water, because Leaks was actually fishing here on his water. And then Leaks advanced here to lame MBL. He joined his base with some drush, delayed MBLs to collect gold, and now he's even building a barracks inside of MBL's base, because he walled his view. So very annoying play here by Leaks, a very annoying player. Io now knows that he has to protect his fish, and he's adding the second dock. Now he's collecting the gold. And look at the amount of food that Mr. Yo already has. It's like 12 minutes, and he already has 14 units, 15 units actually collecting food. Why? Because he is collecting the deers, the huge pack of deers. He is also collecting sheep, and he is also fishing with both the villager that built the dock and some fishing ships. He only has the minimum amount of views on both wood and gold. The ones on the wood actually allows him to make investment, and he will soon need a second building in order to go up to Castle Age. And the other villagers, the ones in the gold, are allowing him to make fire galleys. The problem is that now he's being attacked by MBL. He has the risk of actually losing his fish, but he's eventually defending. Use a very good use of a demolition ship. All the 3 fire galleys from MBL are hurt, and now with only 2 fire galleys, Viper can kind of clean up and win this fight. Viper, no, sorry, Yo. Alright, there you go. It's like 40 minutes, and Mr. Yo is already dropping a market. With this market, he will gain information about what Leaks is doing. So look how funny. His ally is still on Dark Age, and his ally is not even going to Feudal, and he's already going to Castle. That's crazy. But look at this. Leaks was able to spend more militias here on MBL. He's making MBL to lose a lot of time. He's building over his base, denying his stone, lambing his wood. Meanwhile, he also conquered this area of the map by actually putting some barracks. So at least Viper is not so confident in using this area, this spot here. Viper has a very good position because he's not fighting anyone in the water. He just won Leaks, who was in the Dark Age, and now he's fishing Reveille. So this Reveille fishing from Viper gives him a huge advantage. If you go to the suicide stats, Viper has 38 units collecting here, 38 views. I don't know if the fishes are counted here, probably not. Oh no, they are. Okay, so finally, Yo seems to be cleaning out MBL out of the water. The issue is that he only has 2 fishes and had to invest a lot here in the water. And little does he know, but Viper is already planning to deny him the water by adding a dock here. Viper is Italian, which is one of the best water ships, so he can just upgrade his fire galleys and actually attack Yo, taking him out of the water, unless he invests a lot into the water. Yo was trying to invest into fishing ships. That was going to be his primary source of food. He also already dropped like 3 TCs. He knows the situation. His ally is still on Feudal Age, going Castle now. Leaks is preparing to push, so he's sending some views there to the corner. Yo did a few scouts, and he just saw what Viper was doing. He was doing some knights here as well. He cannot do it. Both MBL and Viper are trying to pressure Yo, so he just gives up on the water, stops making fishing ships. He was not even going to invest into the water. He realizes that it's like too late to do that, and he's already investing into the booming. Leaks is being attacked now by Crossbows by Viper, and he is not in a great position. He doesn't have too much strength. He was trying to get the water from Viper, but it's being denied, and he's now getting pushed by crossbows, but Yo, instead of making army, is just defending himself here and focusing on the booming. So that's how we play with the Mongols. He is ignoring and avoiding to make army the most he can just in order to boom. Now he's adding a siege workshop because he wants to defend from those crossbows from Viper using the minimum amount of resources possible, and this can be done by adding a single scorpion. A knight, a scorpion, going now out to the outside to make a 30C. He's already feeling some effects of having no space. So right now we could see that Yo was struggling a bit, but he was still booming fine. MBL was now on Castle Age, everyone was on Castle. There was some huge economical lead by Viper because he was fishing without any trouble, as I was telling. Lix was at least denying him to use the top side of this hill, which contained 2 golds, by massing some siege, and it even had some monks. So Lix was actually doing a very good job here to attack Viper, but Viper was already defending with both knights, crossbows, so this was becoming a bit difficult. Even some good micro by Lix defending from a knight using only siege. Now with a spearman, he would be able to counter the knight, defend himself, still deny Viper the access to those golds. And while he was denying, what was Mr. Yo doing? Well, for now, just some outposts to get knowledge about the map and about MBL movement. MBL was now developing his eco. Lix could see that he was adding TCs, and so could Yo because of Lix barracks. And Yo was already dropping a castle. Now guys, this is very interesting. So basically what did Mr. Yo did? He did use some fire galley here to kill MBL's fire galley. He was attempting to get water back, but not over-investing. He had 34 farms. I recommended in my guides that between 35 to 40, so a few more farms and Yo would be fine. He had more than 30 views already on the gold, so he could even compensate the small absence of food with this extra gold, but he didn't have enough views on the stone. He had only here 9 views on the stone. I would give some extra priority to the gold. Viper was already on Imperial Age, despite being pushed here by Lix. Now with some Arbalests he could clean any Castle Age army from Lix and also even pressure both Lix and Mr. Yo. Mr. Yo meanwhile was building castles, somewhat some forward castles. Of course he couldn't make some more defensive castles since he was very well protected by nature itself with those forests, very few buildings to protect himself, and there was also no space for him to make those builds. So now he started to make a forward castle. This castle would allow him to push this town center from MBL without having to any kind of consequence. Basically, we are approaching Imperial Age. Let me even slow this down. Take a look at Mr. Yo's eco with 36 views. He's already making Mangudai. He already upgraded the bloodlines. He already upgraded 1 armor. He already upgraded the attack, the bot gain. He's now upgrading the 2nd armor. He's upgrading the thumb ring. So he's doing all the upgrades that I told you guys to do. And of course, he's just waiting a bit more. Now he has like 24 villagers on the stone to accelerate his process of getting the Mangudai up. And that's how we play as the Mongols. The minimum effort possible on Castle Age, focus on the booming, and then you solve the game once you are on Imperial Age. Mr. Yo knew that he was very ahead of MBL, and he also knew that Viper was still dealing with some of Lix bullshit, and also that he had Arbalests, which are not great versus Siege. So he already started making some Siege in order to push MBL, and this would give his team more time. Lix was still starting to make his stuff, and I was wondering why Mr. Yo's eco wasn't fully ready to do the upgrades, and now he just received it from Mr. Lix, 600 gold and some food, and thanks to that he's now able to upgrade Elite Mangudai. Of course he's being slinged, but if you take a look on his eco, he didn't need it to get slinged. He just waited, he just needed to wait a bit more in order to make the Elite Mangudai. He still hasn't searched it. He's finished conscription first. As a matter of fact, if you finish conscription, the upgrade of the Elite Mangudai will also be researched faster. So that's probably why he chosen to do first conscription and also a trebuchet, because he wants to take down the town centers from MBL and slow down his development. You can see right now that MBL is advancing to Imperial Age. If you click here on his TC, on one of his TCs, there we go. And Mr. Yo is also a very smart player because MBL is a very smart player because he was also going to Imperial Age using the town center that was in the back. So no matter how much Mr. Yo killed him, there was a very small chance that Mr. Yo could kill that TC specifically. But if MBL was going Imperial Age on this TC, he would probably be fully dead because Yo is probably going to finish off this town center. Already upgraded Capit Run. Vipers here trying to deny Mr. Yo to build this castle, but well, it's not a great position to deny since Yo has other castle there, and he can make a third castle here in the front to buy himself more time. Viper's already making the second castle. With a good group of arbalest and some trebuchets, he can try to kill Mr. Yo before he messes up enough Mangudais. So now Mr. Yo has to be very careful. He's killing the TCs, but he's just messing his Mangudais. He gave priority on upgrading the siege instead of the Mangudai. That's quite interesting, but now he has the Mangudai. And he is messing. That's his third and his fourth castle, around 35 minutes. Viper's coming, but he would need siege. But if Vipers adds the siege, he will have to protect the siege. Meanwhile, Mr. Yo is using the mobility. He cannot kill the Viper's army, but he can kill his eco, using the mobility of the Mangudai. So right now he is abusing of these mobility stats. Killing palisades, killing boats, killing vils, raiding. That's how you use Mangudai. Viper is still trying to reach him, and meanwhile Yo is just killing his ship, his vils, getting fight versus a small army. He might even sacrifice those Mangudai, but right now he is also killing the trebuchet on the other side. You can see that Viper army is always one step behind because he has to run after the Mangudai. So the best thing to do if you have the Mangudai is do not be predictable. Try to keep moving, try to keep using the mobility, force the fights to happen where you want. And if you have a small advantage like Mr. Yo had, at least over MBL, he's using this advantage to push him, kill one TC, kill the second one, is now killing the castle. Mangudais are also great to kill trebuchets. With a few shots, they can just snipe off a trebuchet. They do not need a big group and do not need a lot of arrows. And thanks to that, they are also good to win treb war situations like this one. You can just sacrifice a few Mangudais to snipe off one or two trebuchets. And if you stop to think how effective and how costly trebuchets are, it's totally worthy. Now MBL is losing his castle, he's losing his siege workshop. Viper is starting to siege Mr. Yo, who's about to lose this castle. But of course, he is not so worried because he has more castles. And he's being slinged by Mr. Lix. Lix was giving him resources, now Lix is going to Imperial Age. And all this stone that Lix is collecting, guys, I will be very honest, he's scout, he doesn't need it. Lix just needs one castle in order to upgrade both siege and conscription, and then he just gives all his stone to Mr. Yo. And Mr. Yo can even try to steal some of the stones from MBL. Now we have somewhat of a direct fight. Mr. Yo came here to snipe a cannon. Viper is now switching to Genos Crossbowmen, this unit here. The Genos Crossbowmen have bonus versus any cavalry unit, and that includes the Mangudai, so they are very effective counter to Mangudai. What Viper has to do now is to change his siege. So he is stopping to make the siege run, and he's actually going for Mr. Yo, is actually going for onagers. The thing with the onagers is that they can kill groups of archers without an ease. Mangudais can kill the arbalests from the Italian without any trouble, as you guys could see. The reason is their stats are much better. Even with the extra armor from the Italians, they are still not enough to kill the Mongols. Yo has now lost 2 castles and he cannot afford losing more castles. Lix is slinging his stone, as I said, and thanks to that he's able to do more castles. A Mongol cannot stay without the castles. It's his secret. So he was trying to snipe off these cannons, he couldn't. He's now bringing his own trebuchets to defend. Lix is getting ready to push Viper, so he's preparing siege and some halberdiers. Meanwhile, MBL, who is now losing this other TC and has 3 of his golds very exposed. If you take a look on MBL's map, he's very exposed. He's trying to get back. And Mr. Yo is winning a fight here thanks to his Onager. The thing with the Onager is you have to dodge some cannon shots. But since he has drill, look how fast his Onager moves. And thanks to that, he's being able to force some fights versus Viper. He has trebuchets, he has runs. Viper can try to kill his army, but he won't be able to defend his own castle. He would need some kind of melee unit. He's probably relying that MBL will help him. That's why he's not even attacking this. And there comes MBL with some cavaliers to attempt to kill the runs. But there was another ineffective trade here for Viper, since Mr. Yo now has a few onagers. You can see that the onagers from Mr. Yo also have +1 range. This is due to the upgrade of the siege engineers that he did on the university. A small mistake on Mr. Yo game here that I can point out is that he is only trusting to use the golds. He's kind of sharing the golds with MBL. MBL is eating his golds on his face. He's eating MBL's golds on his face. He's searching for extra golds, but he hasn't found a good place to actually trade. He did his first market now, and he's still evaluating where he's going to place his trade line. MBL now has paladins, and now he's going to use the other technique that I was telling you guys on the guide, which is read and running. He just stopped running now in an attempt to protect his trebuchets, but he couldn't. Now he's just shooting while Viper is going back. But you can see that he's keeping the distance, he's also keeping his numbers. It's a very smart approach from Mr. Yo. And he knows that paladins will do nothing to leaks, since he has now halberdiers, which are an effective and a cost-effective counter to his paladins. He also knows that MBL cannot have access to any other gold. He might have a gold behind, which he actually did, but he had to fight for his forward golds that Yo is actually denying. So that push from the beginning is actually denying the gold from MBL, and he's not being able to get back on the game. And now Yo is sitting on his gold, eating his stone on his face, not allowing MBL to do anything regarding the gold. He's just pointing out some position here to Lix. So Lix is actually starting to trade, Yo as well. The only problem with that is that they do not have the water. So both Viper and MBL could probably do a few galleys and disrupt their trade. They would probably have to fight versus the water afterwards. Yo was also eating the extra stone, so going after the extras is a big part of Mongol gameplay, because since he has access to the extras, he doesn't have to rush too much into getting the trade. And he can pretty much fight 2v1 in some situations. Right here, Viper didn't have enough numbers, and he's losing his genos to Siege, Onager, and Mangudai. And MBL do have a good pack of paladins, but if he gets those paladins together, Yo can try to shoot him with the Onager. And if he advances over Yo, he knows that Yo is just going to run towards the castles and fight in a more proper place. So it's very hard to fight versus the Mongol. Yo is now starting the trade. Lix is pushing Viper, with some difficulty of course, but Viper is suffering a lot more because he has no direct counter to those runs. Amazing, huh? MBL trying his best to get Yo out of position with his Mangudais. He's even going to kill a few, but he's far away from killing all the Mangudais. Yo at the last moment divided his groups and manually microed the Mangudais out of the range of the Paladins. So that's the big thing about the Mangudais. They shoot fast, they have mobility, they have range. So even if you have an army that in theory could counter them like the Paladins, in practice they're not gonna get countered. That's what Yo is doing. He's just running and killing Paladins, running and killing Paladins, running and killing Paladins. He just stopped to kill like 5 Paladins, and he was getting Yo in a trap here to shoot him with the Onagers. Meanwhile, Lix was finishing the game, but basically both players were suffering a lot to kill Mangudais. MBL had Paladins, one of the best units from the Persians, and he wasn't being able to do it. Viper had the Genodes Crossbowmen, and even added some cannons already waiting for the Onagers. Still, those Onagers have drill, and it was just a matter of micromanagement by Mr. Yo. So that's a good example of how Mongols perform even in a very competitive scenario. You can see that Viper had a bigger army, but the army from Yo was way more effective. He destroyed more buildings thanks to the run, thanks to the trebuchet. He used this small opening to get MBL out of resources. He was killing way more units than Viper. His KD was even positive versus a negative one from Viper. Regarding the economy, he was already slinging back leaks, probably sending the food that he was collecting but not using. So he was actually doing a good job. And regarding technology, he went for the fastest feudal age time, which is very common for the Mongol to have. Later, he performed a still very good castle age time, 18 minutes, and then just boomed straight away to reach Imperial age around 33. Viper did a perfect game, and Yo was right behind him with his Mongols. I wouldn't say perfect, but he did a very good game. Huh? Under pressure, was able to attack both waters, go castle soon, go Imperial soon, but he couldn't stop the Mongol. So that's basically it. Yo went after the relics. He was already collecting all the extras. So this kind of attention is very important for a Mongol player to do the difference. And this was probably one of the most perfect games for us to put on this guide. So, GG.